Crazy. I literally disappeared just after
I saw you come back.
Like I shut down my own live stream before
You're like, we're done. Have a good night.
What the heck happened?
Thanks for having me.
Hey, I know, right? Oh, so I tell you, if it's not one technical thing, it's to know. Hey, thank you guys for coming on, and a happy Saturday to everybody. Hope everyone's having a good time. Apparently, we're having a heat wave here in Southern California. How's the temperature where you guys are at?
That's not too bad here.
All right.
Yeah, we're good. We had a heat wave last week, and now it's cold and rainy, so I'm good.
Oh, you did? How did it get over there?
96.
Ah, ouch.
And then it was like UK weather, and then I'm good. My hair was pretty curly for that, but we're good.
All right, that's cool. All right. Today we're going to have some pretty fun topics for us all to discuss. I know you love this sort of stuff. Brian, this goes right down your alley. Before we jump in, let me introduce my co-host, everybody. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. Wait, I better button myself up. Last time I got one button down, grandmother in Kentucky didn't like that. So.
You're like, what? It's a fashion channel, too, while we're at it.
I know, right? Oh, don't even get me started. All right, so we are welcoming Tech with KG and Whisper Status for both have some great YouTube TV talk channels. They all have their distinctive personalities. So if you enjoy tech therapy, that's Brian with the Whisper Status, right? You buy a TV, and then suddenly you have this feeling you have to change it. You have to buy a new one. You have the FOMO. Brian will calm you down and say, look, your TV is awesome. Or he'll say, dude, get a new TV. It just depends on where you're coming from. And KG does a great job comparing TVs head to head. He compares it in gaming modes, all types of gaming modes. And that's what I like about KG and Classy, right? They dive into these game modes and image quality modes where really I don't have time to dive that deep. So I rely on these guys to help me out. So thank you all for joining me as co-host. And I think I've linked your information down there for people to subscribe. Awesome. And so right now, let's jump into what we got today. So today's topics, right? LG burn-in warranty. Big news this week. LG extended its warranty from 1 year to 5. But the big thing that everyone's talking about is, does it cover burn-in? So we'll talk about that. Sony QD-OLED. It looks like the finalist for the QD-OLED launch, maybe next year, maybe the year after, is Sony and Samsung. We'll talk about their prospects, whether it is coming and what they're looking at and why Sony or Samsung would go to QD-OLED and not current OLED technology. Next up, who's waiting for the X95J? Everyone was really disappointed, right? So the large size is coming beginning of July. Like, oh man. And then the 65-inch size that we all want to buy, August. So let's talk about, if you're waiting, what could you buy? What aren't you buying that you might be missing out on? And if you do wait, what will you be comparing it to by the time the X95J launches? And then, of course, we're 10 days away from Prime Day on June 21st. Let's talk about your Prime Day TV shortlist. We're talking about TVs that most likely will run out on Prime Day. Now, if the TV is 2021, we're not going to talk about it on Prime Day because Black Friday will give you even better prices. We're talking 2020 TVs that I think may not last through Prime Day. So by the time Prime Day rolls around, if you are on the fence and and at that point, if you're doing your research, you may miss out on it. So we want you to start your research now. Ask us questions. What are you considering for Prime Day? And hopefully we get you ready so that you could just pull the trigger when that deal comes. And lastly, the theme of today's TV buying online, sight unseen, right, Brian? You've been doing these Best Buy lurking videos where you go to Best Buy and then you're like, wait a minute, I don't see any new TV. I can't even do this video.
I'm like, here's a Q90R.
Yeah.
Right. They're still putting out 2019 TVs, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's jump into it real quick. All right, let's get into LG burn-in warranty. This is awesome. Oh, wait, big hello. Thank you for the super sticker, TechMed. Rainer Richter, are you still in Greece on vacation? Let us know. Are you back in Germany enjoying your 8K Q900, QN900A? And if anyone had any questions, he loves his 85-inch QN900. Just so you guys all know, that is his dream TV. Yeah, and you got a good panel, by the way, large panel, and it has no DSC. Wow. Okay. This has been an issue for lots of people. I'm afraid to buy the TV. And I know, Brian, you get this a lot. Am I going to get burn-in? Maybe I should get a lesser TV because it has no burn-in. And sadly, these people, they may never get burn-in, but the fear of burn-in keeps them from enjoying an amazing technology. My favorite technology is OLED, but you have every reason to fear that because a lot of people are saying if you don't rotate your watching habits, you only watch C-SPAN or ESPN, you're going to get burned because of the persistent logo, right? And LG is saying, wait, 5-year limited warranty. Okay, what does that cover? I'm going to give you a Cliff Notes version. Please read their USA warranty. This 5-year so far applies only to the USA, maybe UK, but for sure the USA. The rest of the world remains to be seen. But here's the critical part that we all want to know. Does it cover burn-in? It doesn't ever say burn-in, ever. But what it does say is, right, but they say, well, you know what, if it breaks, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and what we've learned from the people on the inside is this. If you do make a warranty, don't ever use the word burden, right? Just say, hey, it's got this dirty spot. I don't know what the hell it is. Fix it.
It fell off a shelf.
Right. It fell. I don't know, man. What is this? Fudge brownie, right? Someone left a fudge brownie.
Screen is cracked. I don't know what happened.
What happened? Remember that it doesn't cover labor. So the 5-year warranty, after the first year, I believe, the first year is labor and hardware. Well, after that, they'll replace the panel. But remember this, and this is critical. I think this is their walk away. Minor imperfections that do not materially alter or affect functionality. Now, if your burn-in is a tiny little logo burn-in, that may be considered a minor imperfection. Keep that in mind. It doesn't mean you'll get a replacement. So let me hear from the Peanut Gallery. What are your thoughts about this 5-year warranty? Do you think it's going to rest any of your viewers' fears about burn-in?
Tech, go ahead, bro.
All right, yeah. So I think that honestly, a lot of people might shift towards going towards a G1 now because of this reason. And it's just that peace of mind, right? Like everybody always asks, should they buy a warranty with the TV? Like, should they get this extended Geek Squad warranty to cover burn-in? And if this 5-year warranty already covers burn-in on top of the regular warranty, then I think a lot of people are going to go towards the G1. And it does seem like they are saying that burn-in is covered because if you look at their statement, it's really just saying as long as you're not using it for any retail reasons, like you're not having a static logo up the whole time, for like you're not having prices up on the screen.
Wait, KG, you're not a reviewer abusing it?
No, you know what I mean, though, right? I think what they mean is just the retail people. Like if you're running a store, or if you're running something like that, just have the logos up on the screen. So I think that LG is probably going to cover burn-in. And for the most part, from what I heard, is they actually do cover burn-in for the most part, as long as you're just like nice about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
as long as you're not a jerk
if you escalate it. Yeah. I think what's interesting is it being on the G1, having it be an Evo panel, which is more efficient. I think they're not taking a huge risk. I think they're basically saying, look, this one is this. It's not just a little bit brighter. It's more efficient. There's a reason on the C8 and the B8, those very vibrant OLEDs did burn in a bit. I think they were brighter. I think they had the image differently. So I think they were more prone to burn in a few years ago, which is why OLEDs became more dim as time went on. So I think, as KG said, to delineate the line further and just not say, hey, it's a slim design, we also have you covered with burn-in. The part that I am a little bit concerned about is, like with DSC, Samsung, what are they consider DSC? Mm-hmm. So what do they consider burn-in? If they see a video game logo, are they going to think, hey, look, I'm not covering that. I'm only covering a certain type of burn-in. Are they going to do that on a person-by-person basis? Are they going to send a tech out to you? How are they going to really do that? So where Geek Squad is a no questions asked for the most part, which is why it's so expensive. So I'm curious to see how they handle it and to see if this encourages people to abuse their panels. But I think to what KG said, as far as giving you another reason to purchase the G1, because they've run out of reasons to make you go with that panel other than aesthetically.
Mm-hmm. I think you're muted, FOMO.
There we go. All right. if you both bring up a great point about this going with the G1, what about, and I don't know what the pricing is going to be adjusted on Geek Squad, but a C1 with the extended warranty that goes to 5 years, or the G1 with the manufacturer's burn-in warranty as you see, assuming that if you add the Geek Squad warranty, it comes to about the same price. Which would you guys choose? C1 with Geek Squad or G1 without the Geek Squad?
So I'll go first, I guess. I'll choose the G1 without the Geek Squad. Honestly, I feel like there is that peace of mind there. I personally never get a warranty anyway, so like it's kind of not for me. But like for consumers that are worried about burning, like I think the G1 is definitely more appealing in this case, and I don't feel that there's like any reason to not trust LG on this.
Okay.
Based on like what I've heard from the history. Like I think it's also going to be a way for them to move G1s more than C1s now, because maybe they were thinking like, okay, we're really close. Everybody's saying a C1 is close to a G1. What can we do to kind of separate this? And maybe that's a marketing tactic they wanted to use.
Agreed.
Yeah.
How about you, Brian? What are your thoughts?
Well, for me, I'm down on the G1 because of how close they are. So we talk about it being just more efficient. I'm not really interested in efficiency. We talked about this off camera with the AV receivers. I don't care how efficient they are. I just want to see it be as performance heavy as it can be. So I'll skip the Geek Squad completely, and I'll go with a larger C1 over the smaller G1, and you can keep the 5% brightness. So we can talk about that after, but it just gets to be where we get stuck on one component, burn-in. And I'll interrupt our thing real quick, and I'll give KG some props too. So much of what we talk about on these channels is nitpicking. And if it's delivered, with burn-in became this fear-mongering thing over the years, and it froze people. And it gets to be something to talk about. It got way too out of hand where so many people, even now that are educated, won't buy an LG or a Sony because they're so afraid. And the way he handles his channel and the way a lot of us handle our channels, I really appreciate that, because it calms people down. And I don't want to see them spend $500 on a Geek Squad because they're just barely able to afford what they're buying. To have them spend an additional it's a whole nother TV. Yeah. So I'm glad that LG is doing this. I don't think it's a huge risk because I don't find burn-in to really be an issue anymore.
Right.
I agree with both of you. I think for me, under 77 inches, let's say 65, whatever, I don't think the Geek Squad warranty is worth it. However, on the larger sizes, it's because Geek Squad will come to your house and lift it and take it away and bring it back. For most people, I think that is worth the labor cost. If you're going to want some kind of coverage, only Geek Squad will give you that level of service, both labor and hardware in their service. So that's just something to think about. But that's what I would do because I'm lazy that way, right? So I just want you guys to, it's not like I encourage you, but hey, if you guys are going to pay a premium for the C1, an extra few $100s for that peace of mind that it doesn't have over the G1, the Geek Squad does do the labor at the 77-inch size, especially if it's wall mounted. They will take it off the wall and remount it, not just leave it there on the patio for you to do it yourself. So yeah, that's why I would like it. All right, let's go into Sony QD-OLED plans. And the reason I put this up is recently on the so I linked this article below. Samsung Display has moved forward with production of these pilot models where they have almost all the parts together as a close to production. If either Sony or Samsung wants to go QD-OLED, this is pretty much it, right? It's locked in, maybe some minor updates, but if this is good enough for them, they can get manufacture going next year. So the question is this. First, Samsung and Sony are mentioned specifically as reviewing QD-OLED for their next generation display. We know why Samsung is doing it. We've all seen how Samsung is pretty much similar image quality the last 2 years. I say since the Q90R, it's gotten a little bit better here and there. Motion has gotten better, but they've reached the limit of what local dimming could do, because Q90R had 480 zones. Now they're up to 800 to 65-inch, and it looks a little bit better, but how much more can it get in the next 2 years, I mean, I think we're at the limit of what they could do. And they know that people are wising up to their pricing model. And more specifically, Hisense is releasing their mini LEDs all over the world, except the USA. So next year, I guarantee you the Hisense 2022 model with mini LED, with 800 dimming zones, there's no way Samsung's going to be that much better, because Samsung knows the Hisense is just right behind them. So they have to do something special for the flagship, right? The good news is the good stuff will trickle down to the mid-tier. Now, Sony, why would Sony go QD-OLED? As you can see, even with their XR processor and their back panel heatsink, Panasonic is doing a great job keeping up with Sony in Europe, right? A lot of positive reviews coming out. Well, HZ2000 is last year's model. It's doing as well as this year's Sony A90J Master Series. And so OLED has reached its limit. Sony knows that. If they want to stay ahead of the competition in the flagship area, they have to try something different. Now, it doesn't mean that Sony will embrace QD-OLED. So that's where we are right now. Both Samsung and Sony are evaluating QD-OLED. Is it good enough for them? If both of them reject it, Samsung Display is in deep trouble, because they spent, well, they're investing their entire future on this. And if they can't figure it out next year, it's back to the drawing board. That's one more year loss of potential sales. So what are your thoughts about QD-OLED? Assuming that it doesn't get brighter, all it does is maybe give you better color volume. I mean, what would it take for you to pay your premium for this new technology? I'll start with you, Tech, and then we'll go to Brian.
For me, I think that it has to be very noticeable for me to really care, to be honest with you. And the brightness, if it's not brighter, like, what am I getting with the TV, honestly? Because if I compare colors on an OLED to a QLED, like, you could see a slight difference. And yeah, the brightness and, you know, the colors pop more on the QLED a lot of times. But I don't know, if you put that technology in OLED, like, you would think, yeah, maybe you have the perfect TV kind of situation. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make ultimately, picture quality wise.
And let me give you the promise. That's a good point. The promise of QD-OLED is greater color volume, because right now we've reached the limits of what LG displays OLED could handle in terms of brightness and color volume. If you notice, when you push your TV to, let's say, 800, 900 nits, it loses color volume, where it starts to clip the color. And QD-OLED is supposed to handle even more color, because the color filter is a quantum dot, and quantum dot color filters can handle much more luminance while preserving color.
Right.
But the problem is Samsung has been unable to push brightness beyond 1,000 nits. So in theory, the quantum dot is doing its job. The OLED, or whatever's pushing the light, is not. But yeah, that's a great premise. What do you, Brian? What do you think? Thoughts on the promise of QD-OLED? You're laughing.
I don't care.
Yeah,
I've gotten to the point now. Tech asked me before how excited I was about E3, and being in this, being a hobbyist and loving this passion so much, marketing, I'm immune to it now. Mini LED, micro LED, I've been listening to that for years, and I like mini LED. It's nowhere near what it was promised. It's not even touching what was promised. To me, a mini LED looks as good as Sony's LEDs. You mentioned the X95. The promises for the X95 are going to blow away a lot of what's out right now. It's a regular LED. The mini LED on the iPad has blooming. They're moving to OLED next year. So for me and you guys being in this as beta testers, I'll risk it because we have channels. But as far as a consumer, I'm stepping away and I'm saying, go ahead, promise me all you want. But this is just marketing. With just another, more color volume. They should have done 12-bit panels a while ago. And as you guys have mentioned, if the content isn't even going to take advantage of it, which is what you're going to see, they're going to have it, but say, oh, but this content wasn't mastered for that. It's just more marketing. They should have just stayed with LED and just keep rocking it because to me, it's not making any difference at all.
You make a great point. And I think this leads to one question, but QD-OLED, there's the word OLED. Is it immune from burn-in? And the question is very relevant because the fact that it has OLED in it, the answer is always going to be no. OLED by its nature is organic, right? Organic LEDs. And organic decomposes, decays, it breaks down because of heat and usage. Every OLED panel, doesn't matter who it brings to the table, it has a finite lifetime that is shorter than a regular LCD panel. And with that in mind, OLED will have a risk of burn-in. Now, because there are many, many layers of blue OLED on Samsung Display's version, it's supposed to be more resistant. Doesn't mean it won't have it, but we'll have to see if that, in theory, if it works, but it should be more resistant to burn-in. Doesn't mean it won't be burned in, though. Right now, they're worried about brightness more than anything. And they may end up not using OLED as the backlight technology for the QD color converting layer. But that kind of segues. Oh, but before we move on, I want to
quickly, FOMO. Even this whole Evo thing.
The new panel from LG.
But there are side effects to all of this screwing around, and the question for many people is: are you going to spend between $1,000 and $9,000 to be caught in this mid-cycle experiment? You know, like these new iPads, you buy this iPad that's got 10,000 zones. You're seeing blooming on an iPad. There's no blooming on my phone. So now I'm going to be the one stuck in that mid-cycle. Now, hey, by the way, we're going next year to OLED. And you're like, well, what am I supposed to do with this thing? TVs are that times 1,000. What am I going to do with another 85-inch panel? So that's why I tell people sometimes, you see that Q900T on sale for $3,000, grab it. You're actually not going to be obsolete. Just grab it. You know, it's not mini LED. So what? Do you know what I'm saying?
To be fair, I have both the Q900T and the Q90A and the Q90R. 3 generations of Samsung's last 3. And the biggest differences are so minor. Really, it's the brightness. And only because Samsung's trying to fine-tune that brightness to match OLED. Because we all know that Samsung can go crazy bright. But everyone's complaining about blooming. And so they're trying to make all these things be as close to OLED as possible, and they've hit that limit. But you and I talked about something that I love what you just said about the new Evo panel. As much as everyone thinks the new Evo panel is better picture quality, the answer is no. And this is why I say that. First of all, the new Evo panel, its purpose, now that we get a lot of time with it, reviewers and everyone's experience, it's more about efficiency. It uses less energy. It's more about durability, right? They're going to put that 5-year warranty because it puts out less heat thanks to the efficiency for the same amount of light. But more importantly, let's talk about image quality. If you guys go to Flat Panels Display, HD, I think, Flat Panels HD, they have an amazing review, very in-depth, on both the A90J and last year's Panasonic HZ2000. Both have heat sinks. Guess what? The A90J, the Sony A90J, slightly worse. Now, it's great, but the HZ2000 continues to be the reference TV that Flat Panels feels that, hey, this is still a better TV. And that's last year's panel. They got it brighter than the Sony. It maintains that brightness longer. And so the new panel, even with the heatsink, could not unseat last year's model. Now, we'll see what Panasonic does with their JZ2000 this year. And if it doesn't do any better, then we know, like you said, it's new, but it's not for us. It's for them to save money because they use less chemicals on this new manufacturing. But it's introducing, I forgot to mention, pink tint. That was not in the last one. So now you got people off angle. What is this? And I've been told, Classy was saying that some people found that it's possible the red subpixel has an extra stimulus charge that they're unable to calibrate it properly. So it looks pink. I'm sure on the next generation they'll get rid of it. But right now, don't worry about the Evo panel unless you want to turn your C1 into a G1. Not a big deal. But if that's your thing, all right. But otherwise, the last year's panel is great.
So quickly, this is why it's confusing. If we're in the audience now, right? Now you're saying, oh, cool, I'm in the UK. Let me go last year and grab a Panasonic. Or let me grab a CX or a C9. Here's the challenge. They're not large enough. There's no gaming features. So you really can't go backwards. And those people that love the CX or even love the C9, guess what? They're not going to update you past next year if you have a CX. So really, do you see what I'm saying? So even they're saying this TV's better. You can't just go grab it, right? So it doesn't offer what the A90 has. So that's what it's so confusing for so many consumers is, yes, the picture quality is better. Yes, I've seen the Panasonic reference models. They are gorgeous. But the dialogue, all of a sudden you're like, well, F this. That thing's too, give me this. Oh, by the way, that one has no VRR, no HDMI 2.1.
There you go.
Now you're like, oh, okay, well, I'll get a 77. Oh, they don't have that either. Oh, well, then I'll just grab a CX. Well, yeah, CX, you can't, like C9, people love that C9. They're not going to update that panel anymore.
Yep,
So
that makes sense.
So when we go to that Dolby Vision 4K 120 that I know Tech, KG, and I are waiting for, I'm not sure that's coming to the C9.
Yeah, it's no one's promised that.
Point.
That's for sure. Yeah.
So that's going backwards. As much as I love to give people bargains and deals, it's just all this information puts people in this box when now they buy nothing.
Yeah.
And it's a shame.
And I want to bring
I'm
up
drinking, so that's why I'm rambling.
Yeah. Thanks, David Payne, for the super chat. Yeah, I just bought the 55-inch C1 with Geek Squad warranty. If I had known this, I may have went with the G1 to get extra brightness. But with Geek Squad warranty, you know what you will do? Hey, David, it's not too late. You bought at Best Buy. They will let you swap out. Not a problem. So you technically may have buyer's remorse, but you could always go back. I know it's a lot of trouble, but 55-inch, and I've seen you're a young man. You got some muscles. You could still get that G1.
And David, if it's a clean panel, though, if it's really nice and clean, buying it from Best Buy, I would maybe just realize you're losing a little bit of brightness, but I don't know if I'd risk another. The banding is really tough on these.
Well, here's someone that's saying, thank you, Urfi Grias, for the super chat. Bought the C1. Nice picture, but too dim for me. So I don't know what your room environment is. Let us know. Are you watching a bright room, dark room? I'd be curious to see, because most people in a dark room say it's okay, but you know what? You might not be those people. Everyone is different. So let us know. And what was your last TV you're comparing that to? All right, we're going to jump to what you talked about a bit.
Yeah, a note on that question.
Yes, go.
Had was it depends what you're coming from, right? Like if you're coming from a really bright Samsung TV, you might think the C1 is dim for sure.
Absolutely. Or the H9G. You're going from the H9G to, so we always say to each other, if you have an OLED, you can't go back. If you have a super bright TV that you're used to in a medium lit room, because I know you're not going super bright in a dark room, I think you'll go blind, but normal TV room, windows, whatever, and you have a H9G, U8G, Samsung Q90T, Q90R. You go to a C1, man, you're in pain. What the heck? Or an A8H, you don't even forget the blacks, because in a brighter room, all that gray shadow detail doesn't matter because the ambient light kind of makes everything dark anyway, right? Very good point. If you're coming from a super bright TV, that's another thing. You might not want to go to OLED. You might have to stick with, or go A90J, or stick with the QLED / H9G U8G. Excellent point. All right, here we go. Let's go to, well, speaking of bright TVs, I know a lot of people are waiting for the X95J, including me. So here we have, it's going to be released in August. Now, in July, hey, wait, quick hello. Hey, Brandon, you're on. You ready to go? You're going to take you off into the lobby for a while.
No, I just got it. Give me 1 second.
All right.
Trying to connect my headphones.
Okay, so beginning of July, we'll have the X95J, 75-inch, 85-inch size, but it's going to be just introduced, so it's not going to be cheap. And you can see they're lowering the prices of the X900H, X950H, just get rid of that inventory so that all you have are X90J, X95J. So we have buying strategies for that at the end, right? But right now, 65-inch is up, and guess what? People are waiting for this. But if you're waiting for this, are you going to miss out on the Q90T? There are some TVs that will not last unless, well, there are some TVs that will not last after Prime Day. And this is what people are facing. And I think this is exactly where you come in, Brian, because people are going to come to you and say, Brian, should I pull the trigger or should I wait for the X95J? So, Brian, what are your thoughts on when should they wait for the X95J, and what TVs, if it's available now, should they just pull the trigger and not bother worrying about it?
To me, the best deal right now is the 75-inch 950H. Last year's 950H released in February, just for context, and then the 900H released. And we talked about how both panels were panned. One was a step down, but had HDMI 2.1. The X95 was the flagship, but didn't have HDMI 2.1. So that kind of information made both Not exactly attractive. The 900H outsold the X95, which is why there's no 55-inch X95 this year. They didn't see a reason to give a flagship at 55 inches this year. The X95, in my opinion, is going to be basically a little bit brighter and a little bit better than last year's Z8H. That's what we're hearing. So we're hearing it's going to be a substantial jump. And the processor is, even talking to Robert, it is substantial, the cognitive processor. So it will be an upgrade. The challenge is, though, in this period of time of waiting, the 950H is disappearing and the 900H is nearly gone.
And the 900H at the 85-inch size, I think, may be gone. I haven't seen it back up again.
It's gone. It's gone from Sony. It's gone from Value. Best Buy has like 11 of them where I am. But the problem is, again, the information that we give, the average person is staying away from this panel because it might not be this. I keep hearing like the X90, no one wants to buy that one because it was panned so badly. And people are telling me it's not bright. I have it in front of me. It's a very good panel for what it is. But people are forgetting that when the X95 releases, it will be very expensive. And it will stay expensive because they don't need to lower the price. So all of us expecting this year's panels to drop in price, they're not going to. They don't have to. The A9G just stopped dropping. The A90J was supposed to drop. It's not dropping. So they may raise the A80J. So, they don't need to. So a lot of people are waiting for this to come out, but you're going to be now into the fall before you can afford it.
Excellent points. Hey, thank you for the super chat, Jay. Hey guys, love the channels going from a 48-inch Q60T, that's last year's model, to a 55-inch LG C1. Small, normal lit room. Will notice the difference. Also watch movie, sports, and a gamer. So 60T is not one of the brighter ones. As a matter of fact, I don't even think the 60T has dimming zones. I think it's edge lit. One of the dimmer TVs from last year. Well, dimmer for Samsung. Great for SDR. And that's the thing. So if you watch a lot of SDR, as far as brightness is concerned, you might not be that much brighter. However, your HDR experience with the C1 will be phenomenal, and it's slightly larger. Those two things, I think, is going to make a difference. But as far as brightness, HDR, if you watch a lot of that, you'll notice the difference because of the contrast. But absolute brightness, sports SDR, maybe not. What do you guys think?
So I think that like the perceived brightness of an OLED is definitely going to be higher for this guy in particular, especially coming from a Q60T. We're talking about an edge-lit TV, and it's a 48-inch size, and Samsung typically under 50 inches, for whatever reason in the past, has just like cut features. So they're getting a kind of like dumbed down version of that TV. So that's something he also has to consider. I think it's going to be a huge upgrade for him, and I think he will notice a huge difference in brightness. I think he'll seem like it's brighter to him just because of that perceived OLED technology brightness.
Thumbs up there.
Yeah, for sure. I think that he should do that.
All right, let's go down. Next.
Go ahead.
Oh, Brian, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Well, and I know a lot of guys are talking about comparing the Q60T compared to the C1. They're not even in the same universe. So now we're talking about he's going to upgrade overall picture quality. The contrast ratio, as Tech said, I never really feel like my CX is ever dim, honestly, because of the perceived brightness. He's going to have an upgrade in size, immersion, and again, you're comparing a very entry-level Q60 to basically a flagship, especially last year since the C1 and GX were basically, it's almost a flagship, and I think he's going to be very, very happy with it.
All right. And how about you? You have anything to comment about that, Brandon? What do you think?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Hey, wait, did you win? Wait, I forgot to ask. Did your son win? So you just came from a championship football game with your kids, right?
Yeah, we got the double gold, man. The double rings. Can you see it? Oh, my head's in the way.
Congrats.
My eldest got the league MVP and a ring, so double rings today. Yeah, how's it going, guys? How are you guys doing?
How'd you not take him out to dinner? What are you doing out here with us?
we got SeaWorld. We got SeaWorld plans after this, man. It's all good. We're gonna
leave when you have to, right?
No.
Congratulations. I'm gonna go sit in this room real quick.
Yeah. Congrats. I wasn't coaching my eldest son, so I was just on the sidelines talking to the coaches, telling them what to do.
Right.
But yeah, no, it was a fun day, man. Thank you, and I appreciate being on. What's up, everybody? How's it going, KG? What's going on, man?
Hey,
First
how's
time
it
on with
going?
you.
Yeah, first time, man.
Good answer.
Talking with
Yeah.
you.
And to your question, man, of course, I think that's going to be a big upgrade. I was just checking out the C or the Q60, or is that what Q60T we said?
Q60T,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like got a 7.3 on ratings.com versus 8.8.
Yeah.
So come on. You're talking about like
come
the
on.
best possible score versus like a 7. So of course it'll be a big upgrade and size.
Absolutely. And
60
I know
hertz versus 122. So.
And you just joined us while we were talking about this. What are your thoughts on the X95J, Brandon? Are you excited about it? Do you think people should wait for it, or are there other TVs they could buy now? I know that Brian's actually comparing it to the brightness of the Z8H. Is that what you said, Brian? I mean, that to me, that was a bright TV. So suddenly we have a contender against the U8G and the QN90A. Now, maybe dark room, who knows? But brightness in a bright room, I'm excited. So I'm really waiting for this.
Yeah, I'm excited for this TV. I thought that the X950H last year was a good TV. Like you said, I mean, sometimes when you're in like a dark room, you kind of like point out the flaws of LED TVs, but on the plus side, they're bright and they're nice. So this one should be an upgrade with that processor, like Brian was saying.
I might go back LED after this because
I love.
I've been
trying to. I want one.
I love OLED, and I think what LG is doing is by fulfilling the market or flooding the market with all these price points, the A, the B. OLED is becoming more commonplace now due to its value. I'm ready to jump back to LED. So I'm looking at the Z9J when it comes out. So just because I'm interested, and I don't feel, as much as I am allergic to blooming, I do miss that peak brightness. But that peak brightness is supposed to be $3,000 at this point.
Oh, wait. Yeah. We have an opinion on the Z9J. TechMed, thank you for this. This is an inside scoop. I had a chance to look at the Sony A90J 65-inch here in Crete. I don't think he's ever coming off.
I think he just got I'm going to call this a second home if he's there. It's just a second home now.
We want to visit you in Crete. Forget
Hell
Germany.
Hell yeah.
It looks amazing. But next to the Z9J, the A90J looks so much better. Maybe that kind of solves my dilemma, right, Brandon? I was debating between A90J or wait for the Z9J. So this is a vote for the A90J, and the Z9J, for those of you who are paying attention, is around $8,000 to $10,000 as well. So if you're up there anyway, what's another 1,000 or two, right? But and to the comparisons, everyone pay attention to Brian's channel. He will walk into Value Electronics, take you on a tour, and when these TVs are all there, I spoke to Robert, they're going to have it all head to head. The QNED 99, the A90J, the Z9J, and the QN900A. All there for you guys to check out, because at the end of the day, you're spending $8,000 to $10,000. You got to see it in person, and they're all calibrated, and you are going to be there.
But within those comparisons, and I totally respect what he's saying. There is a pan or an image you love, and for those of us that love plasma and love that, there is a whole group that loves specular highlights and loves that brightness. The Z9G that love the idea of that, and that person before that said the C1 is dim. They're not wrong. It's just their perception and what they see. I still am an LED person at heart. I love the Z9G. It just wasn't very practical. So I'll see how the Z9J compares to the A90J, but we're going to put it through the ringer. It's not going to just be in a dark room. It's going to be in a bright room. And it's going to be with real specular highlights. And we'll see how it does. The problem with the Z9J is it's not going to have the backlight master drive the Z9G did.
Yes, that's the thing.
But that the backlight master drive is about $2,000 by itself. So it's just not practical.
And some of the things is literally too, like if it's going to be bright content or darker content, like you're watching too, because if you watch like bright content on that like Master Series LED TV, it's going to blow it away because it's just got the full screen brightness where the A90J can't do it. And then when you put them up against each other, it becomes pretty noticeable. But I am pretty impressed by the A90J still. I still have the issues with the Netflix, and I still have issues with with just some of the connectivity, but like the picture quality is amazing, man. It's so nice. It's really nice.
And question, thank you for the super chat, Matthew Heinzelman. Coming from a 2014 42-inch Sony LCD, I think that's the one I have too, and wanting to upgrade. I love how OLED looks, and I am in a bright room, but can make the room almost black. Perfect for OLED.
Perfect.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think he should go OLED. What do you guys think? especially coming from a 2014 Sony.
Yeah, totally.
Tech, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think for sure, like OLED is the clear path for him, because if you haven't seen OLED for the first time, when you see it, you're absolutely just blown away. Like I think the first time that I've seen OLED, like I just was like, I gotta buy that TV. So
that wow factor is all you need.
Yeah, it's on a whole nother level when you see the pixel level dimming. And if you haven't seen like higher peak brightness already, you won't be spoiled by higher peak brightness. So I think, yeah, the OLED is definitely the clear path for this guy.
Yeah, I went to a lot of houses like that too. I was like, man, I want that TV, but I can't. 77-inch C1 or like C10, C9, like back in a few years ago. I'm like, yeah, I wish I could get that. Oh yeah, Rainer already hooked it up. I didn't post the second picture on Instagram, but Rainer already replied to my thing saying, I didn't show you guys the other one. The other picture's cuter. Real quick, I know you guys are busy. We're all busy, but
go for
check that out. The 6-year-old, man, come on, get out. There you go.
Nice.
The 6-year-old
monster.
His first season, he almost got a touchdown today too. He's a cutie. So yeah. Anyways, thanks, Rainer. I appreciate it, bro.
Back to what we were saying about the OLEDs is, if LEDs were the way they were a couple of years ago, it might be a different conversation. They just don't seem to be as strong as they were. If you were talking about Z9D or Q9FN, where blooming's so different now. Blooming makes things gray, or it gets really bright. If it was just a little bit of blooming, I could deal with it. And same what Tech said, us being gamers, I'm sure you'll agree, is when you're in a game like Returnal and you're going into a dark cave, that black level, Resident Evil Village, you go into a cave, even if the blacks are crushed a little bit, just the highlight of that lamp and not seeing any haloing from the corners is so valuable.
Agreed. Well, while you're talking, Brian, do you want to say anything, KG?
I'll add this. Like, I think QN90A is also maybe a consideration for this guy too, because it does get to that OLED level blacks.
That is
if
true.
you haven't seen OLED level blacks, you wouldn't be disappointed by the QN90A's black level either. So that's something to add.
This next question, thank you, Boy Genius. Wow, that does look like a Boy Genius for your super chat. This is exactly what we're talking about, Brian. The 950H 49-inch, X90J 50-inch, and you've seen both. You spent a lot of time on the 950H last year, and now you have the X90J. So full lit, open concept room, so it's a bright room, and leaving from an older Sony Bravia, right? Maybe another 2014. What are your thoughts? Which one?
What's tough with those two is if they were exactly the same size. It's only 1 inch, I know, but we talk about it's not just diagonally; it's width, height. I do like the 950H better. Okay. I think the X90J is a nice improvement over the 900H, but not the 950H. And also the 49-inch 950H doesn't have the X wide viewing angle, so keep that in mind, which means it also does have a higher contrast ratio. So for me,
that's a good thing. When you say it doesn't have the XY, you mean it's a good thing, because wait a minute. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is it's a smaller panel, so it does have a very narrow viewing angle. I think the X90J is very good, again, at the tier it's in. If you're comparing it to the 900H, I'd say go for that one, but I do like the 950H better in this scenario. But keep in mind, you're talking about, this goes back to what we always say, if you game at all, 4K 120, for those of us that game, now that I've had it, I can't do without it. And the X90J does do that. And the cognitive processor is a jump up. So if those things are important to you, then go with the X90.
So that kind of narrows it down to two use cases. 950H, if it's streaming movies or whatnot. And if gaming is somewhat important with next-gen consoles, X90J, because of the 4K 120, it does give you smoother motion, right?
Yeah. And I have to say this too, the Sony's lack of VRR, it's frustrating now, because LG is lighting it up. It's kind of like the Xbox
and Samsung.
Samsung,
it's a great gaming TV.
It's what you're seeing with the Xbox Series X versus the PS5. Yes. They're just doing everything they can for consumers. So you want this, I got you. You want this, I got you. Wherever you need.
Yeah.
Sony is just and having both and being able to play 4K 120 on both. It's like what we said about these other things. If you've never had it before, you're fine 4K 60. But once you experience it with VRR, it's just something you can't unsee. So I enjoy the X90J. The 4K 120 is very good on it. There isn't any real lag until you see variable refresh rate and feel. But that's OLED versus LED. But they have to get their act together because it's terrible at this point.
I just want to address something you mentioned. So with a Sony TV, is that your dog?
That's about
So
YouTuber.
It sounds like
I had a
chihuahua.
dog. My dog's in the background, but he can't really hear me. He's a little further away, but he's barking out there too.
Here's my wife's coming.
My understanding is this year's TVs, the Sony TVs, the PS5, actually ALLM works with PS5 and Sony TVs, right? So when you plug in the PS5, it's on the Sony TV. It actually switches over. Is that correct? Because this kind of leads to that. And I know we talked about this, KG. Is there something special between the PS5 and the Sony TVs? I don't know, but I'm just saying it's clear that the Sony recognizes the PS5. Yeah. It's like, come on, man. Why? How hard is it to recognize?
But then just give me that green button on the CX and put her on LG so I can verify. I mean, they're even saying the new Ratchet and Clank Digital Foundry had mentioned that it recognizes it's got a 120 panel. And it'll just kind of do that. You're like, well, but I don't want to see it. They put it up in the corner so I can benchmark it. Exactly. But they have to do something. We have to put pressure on them. I mean, it's just, I feel bad.
I had a quick question too. Do you guys, maybe you talked about this already, I don't know, but I went into Costco and saw that they have that, the X91CJ, and that's still got the older processor. So that was weird.
It has the X1, the X1 Ultimate?
Yeah, it's got the X1 Ultimate. So if someone bought like an 85-inch or like a 75-inch at Costco, I looked it up. I have it on my phone.
Well, the 85-inch is last year's model.
Yeah.
So
the X91?
Yes. Again, that's a reminder for everyone.
It could have been that. I have to double check.
That's why I'm telling people. Get the X900H, if it's available, over the X91J. Identical TV, same old, everything is exactly the same. Robert at Valley Electronics confirmed it. They just changed the label. So if it's an 85-inch, yes, you're right. It is the same. And so if your viewers are wondering, hey, is this right? It is. It's confusing, but it's kind of like what TCL did, except TCL was honest. It's just an R635 again, right? They didn't give it a whole new name.
There it is. Yeah, it's 85. You're right. It is.
With everybody purchasing big TVs, I think it's interesting too because they've come down so far in price that we're forgetting how expensive they are. Being in the heavyweight division for years, paying $4,000 for a Vizio, that was a bargain in 2016. Yeah. That TV was rated as almost free. Yeah. So now we see 83-inch OLEDs, the A90J, which Robert has 10 of them being tested right now. They're all clean. Talking about the vertical banding issue.
Which model specifically?
The A90J. There's 10 of them right now being tested at Value Electronics.
What size? Everyone who's listening.
83.
Wow.
83. We're talking about an 83-inch OLED, and everyone's like, whoa, that's too expensive. Guys, 77-inch OLEDs a few years ago were $15,000.
Yes.
So it's like we have to get realistic. With the 900H being a few thousand, yes, it might not be as bright as this or as bright as that. Remember, everybody, it's an 85-inch TV.
Well, speaking of the heavyweight division, thank you, Kasem, for this super chat. 85-inch Q98 dropped to 4,000. Yeah. Okay. Everyone's opinion. Is this good? Would you buy? Is this a good price? What are your impressions of 4,000 for? And we all agree that Q98 is a phenomenal TV. I don't think there's a compromise at all. $4,000. What are your thoughts? And while you guys are talking, let me do some research to see what else is out there at 85.
I think that's a reasonable price for that. I mean, it's not like it's not like a fall. I mean, especially if you're thinking about that or like a A90J for $8,000. It's like, or not. Did I say that right? A90J. That's yeah. $8,000 versus $4,000. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of people at Bright Rooms or whatever talking about, or gaming features or whatever. It's not like a bad deal. It's just a matter if you're good with the QLED. That anti-reflective coating they have on that TV is phenomenal too. I mean, that you could like shine a spotlight on that thing and it bounces that off pretty good. So not a bad deal. I got to retry that. I want to try to get a bigger one of those and test it out, because it was my first TV of the year and I was like, it doesn't seem much better than the Q90T, but it is better,
Go ahead, Tuck.
So I think that this could be one of the best deals that you can get right now if you're looking for an 85-inch TV. Because if you compare it to what else is out there, it's just $500 more than a 77-inch A80J. And I think those TVs, they're on a similar level in terms of performance from what I've seen. And honestly, it depends on how much you like brightness. If you like brightness a lot, this TV is hard to beat. Like, to me, it's probably my favorite LCD that I've seen in the last like 3 or 4 years. So.
Yeah, I would totally agree. To me, it was Samsung's return to form.
Yeah.
Then again, Brandon, when you got it early in its life, it's been updated like 6 times since it's been released, and it has changed. I know the Q900A NA changed after it was updated. I would just say if you can get guaranteed clean panel, I'd be looking at that TV. It's just their problems with screen uniformity are atrocious. And at 85, expect that to be almost a certainty at 85 inches. And you're also going to see these prices are coming down because it's 4K. Yep. And they're trying to push the 8K agenda as quickly as possible.
And just X950H is still almost $4,000 too. The X950H
and
is
X95J
well.
will be launching next month at $4,500.
So both of those are higher,
yeah,
or close.
That's a good price, guys. Yeah,
that's an insane price.
Well,
I wouldn't take it as a bad sign though. I would take it as Samsung's looking differently at 4K.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get a big LED TV. Maybe this is the one. We'll see.
Maybe that's the one. Yeah.
Maybe
hey, Sean Humphreys, thank you for the super chat. Buy the Sony A80J now, 10% off, or wait for Prime Day. So my quick comment is A80J is a 2021 model. You're not going to get the best price on Prime Day, actually. If you could actually wait, Black Friday, but since Prime Day is next week, go ahead, wait. 10% off isn't a big deal. It might go lower. What do you guys think? Should he pull the trigger now or wait next week?
I got to jump in this real quick. The A80J released at such a reasonable price. It dropped right as it released. Keep in mind that Sony may raise the price because of shortages. The A80J is flying off the shelf. So this, for 10% here, 10% there, I mean, if you're within your return window, they'll readjust you. But this waiting to save a little bit of money, the A80J, the A90J, they're not dropping the way they were supposed to. They might go up. And the A80J's price drop was only temporary.
Yeah, and the especially the 77-inch too, because that's like $1,000 off right now. So
yeah, but it's definitely going to go back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you get 10% off of that too. It's like, damn, that's a good price.
So this stock price, like waiting thing, it's going to get some of you guys. And it's like with the A9G, when that came down a lot, people hesitated. It flew right back up. And I'm telling you, try buying a car right now. They don't need to sell you anything. So they're not going to drop the way they used to. We could do a whole video on this alone. Dude, they don't have to drop.
I'm looking for a car for my son. Doesn't matter what it is. Prius, Prime, everything is MSRP. And they're like, look, just be happy you're getting a 0% financing, because if you don't buy it in 5 days, it's off the lot regardless. So we're
5 days. 1 day.
Yeah.
One day. We put down $1,000 and they sold it the next day. The high-end cars, they're basically saying, look, I know you put down a deposit. Are you going to buy it or not? Because someone's ready to buy it. So your bargaining posture's gone. So even with these guys, all of us waiting, hey, maybe just if you can afford it, if it's within your, I would pull the trigger on it. I wouldn't hesitate. Enjoy it because you'll have it a little bit sooner, especially the Black Friday guys. If you have something like the X95 launching so late, there's no guarantee it's going to drop.
Yeah. Agreed. I'm considering the X95, the 65-inch size, more of a 2022 at this point. And, well, this takes us to these deals and just Prime Day. What's on your short list? Now, these are listed not so much because they're the best, but rather I expect these to possibly not be available. So if it's a TV that you definitely want to get the best price on Prime Day, these are what it's going for now. If it goes lower or around there, if you don't buy it by Prime Day, it may not last after Prime Day. So we talked about the X900H 85-inch. I think that's gone from most sites, but if your region still has it, not open box, but the actual Sony X900H 85-inch, it is exactly the same as the 2021 X91J. Same TV, same old processor. Then get this one if it's available. You'll be saving a bundle. 950H 75-inch, $2,000. Brandon and I spotted this one maybe a few weeks ago. This is the best 75-inch deal right now. It's also not going to last through Prime Day because the 950H is a phenomenal TV. And C10 or Q90T, either one, 65-inch size is around $1,800. This is also going to be very lowest. It won't be much lower than this. If you get it $1,800, $1,850, that's a good price for what is a very bright TV on the Q90T side and a great darkroom TV on the C10. And then the Hisense H9G 55-inch. I saw it for $650 last week. I think it's back up to $750. So it could have gotten cheaper again. Maybe it'll go down to $650 again. At $650, definitely a great deal. So these are something for you guys to think about if you are creating a short list. You guys have anything to add to that, or anything else to say about the Prime Day TV shopping strategy?
No, that X9. Oh, if you could put it back up real quick.
Yeah.
Well, it's all good. You don't have to, but that X950H was like at $2,200 or $2,199. So if it can get back down to that price, that would be really awesome.
Yeah.
I think Corey Melvin on here, comes on here once in a while, got that at that $2,100 price. But otherwise, all those are really good deals. I can't believe that X950H 75 is like $1,999. That's a really good price too. So
yeah,
I think they're all great prices, man. I know if you go to like Costco, because they might do deals similarly, that C10 is like at that price $1,850, but then the A1 is isn't it $1,900 for the A1? It's like the same price as the C10. So if you go in there and you're looking at the A1, it's got that like more semi-gloss finish to it, 60 hertz, no HDMI 2.1, and it's the same or more at Costco than the C10. It's a terrible deal. I wouldn't do that.
Go ahead, Zach.
All right.
I'll add on to that. Yeah, like the A80, not the A80J, but the A1 is not a great value right now when you can consider like you can get the C10 for that price. And also, I have this on Prime Day prices. It's like I wouldn't expect anything remotely like crazy in terms of a good deal more than what you can get right now. Like you typically don't see the newer models drop in price on Prime Day, so
it's like that Black Friday where people running in to buy a toaster.
Yeah,
it's not even a high-end. Not even a high-end toaster.
It's $5 off, man. I got to get it today.
The actual Black Friday day deals are pretty terrible, but the Black Friday month deals are great. Like when November starts, that's when the prices start to drop. But everybody's like, wait till the actual Black Friday day, and then all the TVs are gone by that day. So it's
I think you're going to see if you're interested in a CX, I would grab it because I think you're going to start hearing the reports of Evo panels maybe not looking as good. So you're going to have that sell out the same way we saw the C9 stop its price drop and sold out because it was 48 gigabytes per second. So you're going to start seeing that again. The more we talk and the more that gets out there that the Evo panel might be having pink tint and the CX doesn't, if you want to buy that panel, I would grab it. That's a great deal. I would get it.
Agreed. And here we have a quick FYI public service announcement. Keep it classy tech. Couldn't make it. He's out there doing his thing. And the G1 looking good, no dimming. And then the A80J fell over. Like bees, but survived. And so,
it is the narrowest box, and it has the stand is not heavy. You know, like you got like the C10 and all that has a heavy stand at the bottom, so it like kind of bases it. That I'm telling you that when I was boxing that A80J up, I had to have my wife hold it the whole time. It's super tight. They'll tip either way, man. So be careful with that A80J. I stepped on the back of that hard, dude. He told me about that, and he literally just missed all of his tools too. And on mine, man, I literally missed everything. I had all kinds of tools and the feet and everything, and it literally landed perfectly flat on the carpet. I was like, yes.
Man.
That's the way to go. I love it.
Be careful.
Most terrible OLED confirmed.
Okay, so this kind of takes us to where we are now with, there's Prime Day or Black Friday. More and more displays are not showing up because they're just selling them before they even get a chance to display it. We're talking about Best Buy. Obviously, Costco will display it, but not all the models are there for you to see because they don't carry everything. And sometimes, or all the time, Costco or even Best Buy, unless it's Magnolia, they will put it on its brightest vivid anyway, which is what you're not going to watch it at. So even if you show up to look at it, what are you looking at really? So before we talked about this, buying a TV sight unseen, I mean, are you relying on quote-unquote influencers or reviewers or whatever, right? It's the same thing. We do influence your buying decision with what we say. And so these TV shortages are causing and changing economics. Buyers more and more are just relying on either reading the review or YouTube channels. What are you guys thinking? How should a consumer approach TV buying this year? It's so different than the years before. And we'll just go down the list, starting with tech. What's up?
Okay, so I think that consumers are actually in a really good place now because you have channels like us, not to toot our own horn, but like I didn't have that like a few years ago. Like when I was looking at TVs, I only had like CNET and maybe HDTV test was there. And, you know, you had RTings just coming up. So like stuff like that coming up is so good for consumers. And to get different opinions from everyone is the best thing you can do. Like, don't just watch one person, like watch everybody and then formulate your own opinion based off of that and based off of your own needs. And that's going to be way better than going to the store and talking to a Best Buy employee who, not that they're trying to upsell you or anything most of the time. It's just that a lot of times these Best Buy employees are really nervous and they want to make a good impression and they want to act like they know everything. So sometimes you can get an employee that knows a lot, and then other times you got somebody that's pretending to know a lot just to not look like a dummy. And I know that from experience because I've worked at Best Buy, and you know, I've had that experience, and it's just you know, you get what you get at Best Buy, and sometimes people are trained, and sometimes people don't really care, and they just
And KG, before you move on from that, it's funny because I've heard an account, and this was on this episode, where Techno Dad was told by former Best Buy salespeople that they used to watch his channel to be trained about TV reviews or whatever. They just watch his channel. And then others have said they watch my channel and more, right? And so basically, it ends up being we are also influencing the information of the actual salespeople at Best Buy. It's not really getting it from any experts or not. But good point, KG. How about you, Brian? What are your thoughts now?
Well, I think it's a slippery slope because there is so many of us, and there is so much toxicity over a particular panel. And I know that when I show last year with the CX, every video talked about how it didn't do this, it didn't do that. Or now the X90 is trash. And so I agree you should watch everyone and get as much information, but there is way too much information out there in some ways. The challenge with Best Buy right now is they're basically a fulfillment center. And in the video I did yesterday, the Z8H was on Vivid, by the way, I did show that, but they had an A1 sticker, but it was a BX. They had TVs from last year and this year. The challenge is we are all enthusiasts, and the people that watch us are enthusiasts. The common person just walks in, has a budget, and they buy. So that's where I think Hisense and those guys are getting hurt because people aren't seeing them. They're not even in Costco's anymore. So you are relying on us. But again, we are human, and people do have their agendas. People will buy a TV, they'll do a review, they'll trash it just so they can return it. Which I don't agree with at all, by the way. So I think you try to be as honest, but you should watch everyone. But it's slippery, and we don't have experts in the field anymore. And a lot of Best Buy people do know what they're talking about. It all depends on who it is. Yep. But unfortunately, they don't pay them well enough to really hang in there with where they used to. But like I'm saying, like I do a comparison with the X90. I don't do nearly as many comparisons as you guys do, but I have to fight off more comments about what they heard about that panel 2 months ago. And they're trashing it in front of other people who have it. I do it that's why I'm not as active as I used to be in the comments, because the toxicity of this thing sucks. None of them suck. I'll say it now. None of them suck. They're all very good, but that narrative is not in Best Buy. That narrative is on this platform.
All right.
And, you know, it's a challenge for people. It confuses them to where they're actually not doing anything, which is the paralysis by analysis.
That's a fair point. That's a really good point. Good point.
Brandon, I know you buy TV both as a consumer and a reviewer, Brandon. Are you doing sight unseen? Do you care anymore?
Well, I mean, I buy a lot of products for people. I think it's good just to get as much as you can get from all the reviewers, or, go online, figure out what you can get out of that, and then going into a store prepared with like what you think, and then maybe listening to people. I'll go in and I'll get their take, and then I kind of like, if they say some crazy things, I mean, you can get like, okay, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because that's like contrary to everything I heard about that TV on YouTube or whatever. But when there are differing opinions, then it just goes down to like, making sure, you're in your budget, whatever. I know you and I talked about, people having like way different budgets. So sometimes people will go into Best Buy with like a $500 budget. And so it's hard, but it's definitely helpful to be, loaded with knowledge. I buy some TVs I just bought a Samsung frame for the office here just to get some art in here. And I do a lot of videos on Samsung frame. It's not the best, it's not the brightest TV in the world. It's expensive, but it's a dual purpose TV. It's good for art. So we got one of those, but so I get various TVs, and I think you just arm yourself with as much information as you can, but then don't overthink it and sit here and like you said, paralysis by analysis, where you can't even like pull the trigger because you're just so messed up. So that happens with all tech, man. I'm sitting here trying to figure out, I want a gimbal for my phone because I have a gimbal for my camera, but I want one of those little phone gimbals. And I'm sitting here watching all these videos doing the same thing, but that one can have a bigger TV. That one can do up and down. And so it's like, it happens with all tech.
But the thing about us, Brandon, and again, watching Brandon or watching any of these guys, yes, taking what we say has to still be with a grain of salt, because I'm not as invested in the TV I have as somebody who is, that's their one and only. So yes, I'll take a risk on this one, and so will Brandon, so will Tech, because it's valuable to me as almost a little business now. These guys are looking for the end all be all, and it's very hard to find that opinion. You can be more flippant with TVs when they're not yours, or if you plan on returning it. So that's why I go a little bit deeper in how it fits for each person, which is impossible, but
for sure,
it's just very hard when they watch us and they're like, dude, you were in love with this TV last week. Why are you in love with this one now? Well, I'm on all of them, but that's why trashing them is what stays with people. They buy nothing. And that's why we talked about the 900H. Other than the Sony debacle, that's a good panel at 85 inches that people could actually afford, and it's gone.
$2,600.
And the 950H, people went nuts. Oh, it's got the X wide viewing angle. It's got a terrible. Yeah, you see that on ratings, but use your eyes, and that's the problem with these influencers and with it not being in store. See it with your own eyes, and you'll be surprised how you don't even notice that contrast ratio in the 950H.
Yep. And I want to jump in real quick because this is on topic with buying things sight unseen. In this case, Zero Fidelity. Sean, if you haven't seen his channel and you love audio, this is someone I'm trying to get on our live stream. So when we have our long running live stream on Prime Day, we're going to have Sean from Zero Fidelity on. Thanks for coming by. So this goes exactly what we're saying. We can't listen to every piece of audio equipment, right? You go to channels like Zero Fidelity, he covers speakers of all price ranges, amplifiers, because the truth is, how many DACs or amplifiers or whatever are you going to send home? Listen, you're not. And ultimately, whether it's TVs or audio equipment, you're going to have to get as much information from the various channels out there. Zero Fidelity is one that I love listening to or watching, or Thomas and Stereo. And we have a lot of guys out in our industry that do this. And this is why, as a group, we don't pan any problem. Oh, this sucks. But it's always, okay, for this situation, it's no good. Maybe it's weak. But then for this one, it excels. Like Brandon, you and I were talking about, it's a $400 TV. So for a dorm room, it's a $400 TV. It excels in a dorm room, and you're trying to save money. I'm not comparing it to an OLED. It's a $400 TV. So it does excel in that use case. So yeah, I love that we're talking about where there is no perfect product, but for people to trash a TV like, oh, it's garbage. Like come on, there is a use case for it.
Well, it's difference between being a consumer and a fanatic or a fan. Yeah. So people want to defend and they want affirmation, and I get that all the time. It's, the C9 was such a good TV. I still hear people saying, "Oh my God, it's this, it's that." Feeling the need to put down something else to make yourself feel good about what you bought, it's dicey. We talk about that in the GPU market. You can't keep swinging that, but putting down like the X90. Every video I do, I get somebody who's in the community who kills it. That TV,
but they don't have the TV.
I have it in my lap. Like I can hold it. But the fact is, it's not designed to be a flagship. It's not a flagship.
Yes.
And we talked about this with...
It's a successor to the X900H, a $1,000 TV.
And we talked about this with ratings. And ratings, whatever, love them. But don't just look at the numbers. Read their dialogue. Read what they say. They'll say that it has less of a color gamut than the 900H. Right below that, it'll say, due to the higher peak brightness, it has a higher color volume. So everyone gets stuck on blooming all these buzzwords. Screen tearing is not a new term. It's been around for eternity. Now people can't forget it. They think no VRR means screen tearing. It doesn't. It might drop a frame. It won't tear the screen. So everyone gets stuck on. That's where I'm trying to say our information is great, but it does trip people up and they become fans instead of consumers. And that's where it's a little bit dangerous.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks, Steve F, for the super chat. He might be getting FOMO. He was set to get an A80J to go with his PS5. Then all this talk about how the X95J is awesome, super bright,
See?
matching the Z8H.
He just did it to the poor guy.
Right. But use case, what do we talk about the X95J? It's super bright.
Yeah.
Dude, if you're in a dark room, you're not going to put it at 100. You'll be down to 30. Wait, at 30 looks just like the A80J. Now it has lifted blacks. If you're in a bright room, hey, X95J, come on, it's going to be perfect for a bright room. So match to your environment. I say X95J, actually, you should wait for it if you have a really bright room. But if light controlled room and it's dark, you're going to bring the X95J down in darkness, and suddenly the A80J is going to look better. So that's my calm for you. What are your thoughts on Steve's sudden FOMO now?
Go ahead.
So I want to say this about not having your brightness all the way up in a dark room. I actually do have it up all the way.
You do?
Well, in HDR, I do. In HDR.
Is it on the Q98? The Q98?
Yeah. No, on my Q90T that I use for my personal TV. And it is amazing. I just have a dark room most of the time, but I have the brightness all the way up on SDR, on HDR. I don't care. Like, I just like the brightness. So I feel like maybe people say that too much, where in a dark room brightness is going to be need to turn down, like maybe for a lot of people, but
so I like to respond to that. That's really good counterpoint, only because I am so used to getting everything matched to color volume. Yeah. If I put it up there, I lose a lot of color. But for me and for my purposes, I take it down because I need to maintain color. Same with the LG C10. I don't let it go up to max either. I clip. I have to bring it down because if I lose color volume, it's too bright. But you're right. That's not your thing, right? My job is to maintain color volume, but yours isn't. So this is great.
Right. Also, my use case is mostly gaming. So I gotta state that is like when I have my brightness all the way up, it is mostly gaming. If I'm watching movies or something, it's probably in filmmaker mode, which does sort of dim the screen down a little bit.
So check out. We just illustrated exactly why you watch everybody. So if you're looking at what FOMO's saying as far as the calibration accuracy, and then you're talking about tech with his personal display, I got to go in the middle somewhere because he's saying to me that FOMO's saying he's researching, right? He's trying to make displays look the same. Tech is enjoying his display. Which one do you want? No one's wrong. But, back to what we were saying about lowering brightness, I don't do that in HDR. So everything we watch, almost everything I watch now is in HDR, especially now gaming, at least when I'm not PC.
Same here, yeah.
So this guy, let's remember what his question was. He's also coming from one of the brighter LEDs in the KS8000. Right. And the way the KS8000 bloomed, it bloomed in columns. It didn't bloom like this. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be bothered by the Z9J's blooming. Or not the Z9J.
The other thing I asked him too in the comments, like if he's getting he said 65 or 77 inch. So for me, like if he was going to go from a 65 to a 65, which is what I think he is doing, then it might be like that. The LED TV might be similar to the KS8000, or the KS8000 might be brighter, to be honest. So if same size, like if you're going up to 77 inch, then you're going to get a different experience on both TVs. So then it's like darker content, darker room, I'd get the A80J. If it's going to be like bright content and you enjoy the KS8000 for the bright content, like SDR brightness and full screen brightness, then that was it the X95J or the X958?
Not 5J,
right. Yeah.
Well, so then he'll also appreciate the local dimming because the KS8000 was edge lit.
Yeah.
But the saturation on the KS8000, that's when Samsung was all about that cartoony, vibrant.
Yeah.
And whether you like it or not, that's the kind of image that I thought that, like, to me, I like that image. You can tone it down, but if you take that guy's saturation and throw him in front of an OLED, he might struggle.
Exactly. Because I have that TV outside now. It's so bright. It's so bright. And I didn't even like, you can really notice the lack of contrast because it's edge lit. So it's not like you notice the dimming zones all the time. And so, so it's like, I just love that TV while I had it. Ignorance was bliss. Boom, bright screen. Like KG was saying, it's just like I had it on bright all the time. And then my wife was like, man, you got to turn that screen down at night because it was in our bedroom. So that's why I use the auto brightness.
But in HDR, that's what people say to me. Hey, if you want your Sony to look more like an OLED or whatever, just knock down the gamma. I try to tell people when you're in HDR, there's a reason they move those settings up. So don't go into knocking down your brightness when you're in HDR. There's a reason why they want you to keep them there. Now, if you want to make them for your purposes of testing, that's fine. But for most people, they're going to go in there lowering their brightness, and they're going to get into a cavern, and they're going to see nothing.
Yeah.
So, one thing I gotta say is, like, I get a lot of people that say they're gonna buy the Q90T or the QN98, but they're gonna lower the brightness down to 30. I'm like, why are you buying that TV in the first place?
Not in HDR.
Yeah, like, just buy an OLED in that case if you're gonna lower the brightness.
That's a very good point. You know, when I do my reviews, it really is, the goal is to give you the creator's intent, meaning if it's in the video, I want you to see it. That's the color. But if I take it to the capacity of the TV, you're losing all that color. And that's why, for me, Sony is my preference, because they prioritize preserving color. LG doesn't. They prioritize getting you that HDR emotional impact, even if it's at a loss of color. No one has the right answer, basically, right? And that's why you watch our reviews. But before I leave this question, I think this is related. A80J, ABL. What's your experience, Brian, with the ABL? Was it annoying on the A80J, or any of you? What are your thoughts on the ABL? How aggressive is it? Because I know word is out that's kind of aggressive, but in real use, what are your thoughts?
Me? Were you saying me? I think
you have it.
I didn't really notice, man. I mean, I don't really tune in too hard about that ABL. Like I even had a hockey on. You know, it gets a little dimmer, I guess, but I didn't really have a problem with it. I watch a lot of HDR, but when I'm watching cable, I think that OLEDs look sufficient and good, like good quality. The A90J, you know, is brighter, but I didn't notice it when I was watching SDR with these two TVs next to each other, and I recorded that Laker game. I thought that the A80J looked better. I thought the A90J was a little too bright. Maybe it wasn't. You know, I'm not like technical with this, but I liked, out of the 4 OLEDs, and I have that clip, I could play it, but I just preferred the nice even look of the A80J overall. Is my favorite for sports. So, you know, I don't know. I guess that's about all I have for the ABL.
No, that makes sense. And staying on with the Sony, huge Sony fan. Thank you, EHJ23, for the super chat. Sony, love it, but no gaming features. Only HDMI 2 or 2 HDMI 2.1 ports. Reminds me of the X800 Blu-ray player, where you had to keep going into settings to turn on or off Dolby Vision or HDR. He's giving LG the win this year. But again, gaming, right? You're talking about gaming. So yeah, gaming, LG has the win again this year. Samsung's catching up. Are you guys giving LG the win this year as well? Or
I gotta
go ahead.
I gotta step in for this. First of all, yes, go Broncos to this person. And I gotta say that, man, like, when it comes to going back to the A80J and ABL, so I have seen the A80J and the A90J side by side. I've put it side by side many times. I have a lot of videos showcasing that, and you can see in the videos ABL happening on the A80J when it's not on the A90J. So that's something clear you can definitely see. When I had it next to the A80J and the C1 side by side, I noticed ABL about the same amount of time. So for that was the case.
That's a good point.
And on the topic of LG for gaming, like, there is this caveat that SDR brightness, SDR gaming brightness, its peak brightness is locked. So if you're going to lock the peak brightness on SDR gaming, you're definitely losing out on some things, because I've seen this next to the A80J, and to be honest with you, the A80J blew it away for SDR gaming. It just completely
you're saying
blew
the
it
LG
away.
C1, did you say the LG C1 locked its brightness on SDR?
On SDR gaming, yes. It's like that for the C10, I think, as well.
C10.
And it's like that for the G1 as well.
I did not know that.
So, yeah, cool. This is something that I don't hear a lot of people talk about. So I keep bringing it up, because if you're buying a C10 for gaming, or a C1 for gaming, or a G1 for gaming, like, you're going to game in SDR. It's just going to happen.
Yes.
Like, no matter what you do, you're not going to find every game in HDR. Even if you have a Nintendo Switch, this is really important as well, because all you do is game in SDR.
Yeah.
So yeah, if your peak brightness can't get to a maximum amount, then you're really sacrificing some stuff.
That's a great point. I didn't know that about SDR and the LG C series, and this would apply to the G series, I would assume. Whatever its max, obviously its lock is probably a little bit higher, but the A80J's peak brightness in SDR game mode is higher. Is what you're saying, or noticeably higher, right? It's not like it's 10 that's higher.
Well, in some of these situations, though, we saw that with how if you put the LG in PC mode, it would gray out some of the settings, or Xbox forces HDR. So I mean, it has more flexibility, and you may find that you can turn that off somehow. And I know that when it was in PC mode, the HDMI black level was flipped, where auto was. Do you know what I mean? So there's some work to be done. But as far as it giving exactly like it, to me, it's like the Xbox. It really tries to cater, but it's been doing it longer.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting. I mean, we're Sony and Panasonic, we're still getting these issues with 4K 120 and all these problems. LG has worked that out. So for gaming, I think they're just very, very complete. And they still update their panels to have that slider. They're always looking out for gamers, which is smart.
No, that's great. That completely makes sense to me as well. And this super chat from Cyber GT, thank you for this comment. This is awesome. So he's in England. My local high-end store, Seven Oaks, had Vincent Toe, celebrity calibrator, come to calibrate all their TVs. He's 150 miles away. And other local stores, such as Curry's and Hughes in the UK, watches you guys and Vincent. Hey, how about that? Brandon, KG, and Brian, you are crossing the Atlantic. Hey, we talked about this, right? Come on. We are actually... I don't want to say influencing, but we are helping out the community with our opinions. Watch as many people as you can. That is awesome. I love it.
One of those things that's the craziest is I get a lot of people from Australia. Man, the prices there get killed. They get killed.
Canada too. Dude. Canada is so bad with that.
Canada and Australia. I get a lot of people from UK, Canada, and Australia. But man, their prices are ridiculous. I feel bad sometimes.
Yep. And as Charles Hinton repeats, it's all about use case. If you tell us your use case, we'll get you a TV that works. Because for that use case, that TV was designed to excel. You can't excel in everything. So yeah, hey, thank you, Emmanuel, for the super chat. Best TV for movies that supports 4K 120 HDR VRR. I think you're limited to 2 this year if it's a 2021 model. It's either an LG or a Samsung. They both have 4K 120 and working VRR. The Vizio does technically have 4K 120 HDR VRR on the P Quantum X, but it's not working too well. So I'm going to discount it. Sorry, Vizio. What are your thoughts? We'll start with you, KG.
Well, now that you said that, you're going to get so many people in the comments talking about how you disrespected Vizio.
I know.
But yeah, no, I agree. Vizio's just not there yet. They're whatever reason they're slacking. They're incomplete. And for some reason, their 120 doesn't work properly, and their VRR apparently doesn't work properly either, according to most of the users that I've talked to that have this TV. So it is definitely between Samsung and LG for VRR right now, like, because we don't know what Sony's going to do. And I couldn't tell you either. Hopefully it comes in December, but
right.
You never really know.
Right.
I mean, I'll go LG just in the sense that, even things like the 4K 120 Dolby Vision, they're going to try and still bring that to you.
Yes, you meant that. That's such a good point.
So they're always trying, even if they can't work it out for you, they are. Samsung, to me, still not having eARC on the Q90R and leaving people out as unforgivable. Vizio, I have to say something about Vizio, is they definitely fell asleep at the wheel. If you can say whatever you want in the comments, I've championed them for years. They were ahead of TCL. They were ahead of Hisense. They were going to be sold to Leico a few years ago. That didn't happen, and it screwed them up. And to me, I championed them because they still wanted to bring me that Q9FN, and I've had a bunch of them. They've all broken, and it's very hard. It's very hard to recommend them as well. It's just because they seem like they're stuck, and it's just. But I would go with LG to just very, very complete.
Agreed. And I know, Brandon, you don't care much about the VRR part, so
not a big deal. I would just say, the Dolby Vision on the LGs is probably what I would say that hadn't been said as far as just like movies. So
yes,
and then bright room, dark room. If you're in a super bright room with windows, maybe the Sony or Samsung will help, but otherwise, I get an LG.
Oh, quickly with the 4K 120 VRR, and I know Tech is a big gamer as well. You hear this a lot in the comments. There's nothing in 4K 120.
Yeah,
and there are,
right.
And you have all these games that are boosted. I mean, especially Xbox is just like, okay, you want the whole library boosted? Here you go. And I would say though, if you have a display that does 4K 60, even without VRR, you will be absolutely happy, because many gamers that are in our communities are not PC gamers. So 60 hertz is a quantum leap over 30. However,
60, locked 60. Amazing.
So even the 950H, its game mode is gorgeous. There is no tearing because the consoles have VSync enabled anyway. So you're not going to see tearing. It's within the game. But once you experience variable refresh rate and you experience 4K 120, it is very hard to go back. So if you won't have it, I think you're okay having a display without it. But once you have it, Tech, you know, it's something that I think is amazing to behold.
Yeah, really quickly, do you know if the 950H does 1440p?
It does
120 hertz? It doesn't?
I don't think Sony supports
No.
1440p on any of its
No,
TVs.
it doesn't. I mean, I think they used to do a custom. There was a custom mode. It might be Artings has it up. You might be able to
force it. It's
do
not
a
native.
force, but it's not native. And unfortunately, I think it messes with the anti-aliasing. I guess it disables that, so I can't recommend that. But but 4K, again, with our commentary, people are now that have never experienced 60 FPS are now leaping to 120. And you're not buying panels because you don't think they can do it. VRR is a premium thing. It is awesome. I love it. It's important. But if you're stuck at 4K 60, you'll still have a smooth experience.
And to one point that Emmanuel mentioned, which is best TV for movies that supports. So we know the gaming features. You go with LG, and LG is fine for movies. We're talking about the ne plus ultra of movies, right? This is why I love Sony. It's at the very highest 3 or 4%. But for most people, the movies on the LG looks phenomenal, which takes us to the next super chat. Hey, Andy. Loving my 65-inch A90J. And if you don't know, he is a total cinema fanatic. I think he has like these old school THX machines at home. And now that it's installed, never had a TV with HDR before. It's amazing. And yeah, Sony does a great job with that. Also, the PQ on the Bravia core is almost just as good as Blu-ray. So one thing I want to ask you, Andy, real quick, is on the Bravia core, are you using Wi-Fi or Ethernet? Are you getting any drops? And what titles are you watching that you're loving? Because I know not all of them have the high bit rate titles on Bravia core. As a matter of fact, some of those movies are still in 1080p, and you're going to have to look in the specs to see which one. Sony, come on, man.
Physical media is...
I know. It's like, wait, this looks like 720p. What? Is that 1080p? So yeah, not all of them are the high bit rate. Just some of them. Eventually, I'm assuming most of them later in the future, but not right now. And Wi-Fi gives you the highest bit rate possible. Their Ethernet connection is not so great. Something to keep in mind, everyone, if you are getting it for Bravia core. And we're going to jump to Jimmy Two Shoes. Haven't seen you in a while. Thanks.
Jimmy, what's up?
Shout to Brian. He has been talking about tech therapy from day one. I think that was the origins of your channel, right? You needed tech therapy. You sought YouTube community to help you out.
Go back to those old videos. You think I was in to kill the world.
Since getting the 65-inch C9, I haven't watched many other TV reviews. Smart move, Jimmy. And this is what you were saying, right? Don't watch any more reviews after you buy your TV. It does what I want it to do and more. Come for the discussion, come for the community, come to help other people calm down, but don't come to reaffirm your buying decision or you will get FOMO.
Yeah. When you will bump into somebody who just is going to destroy a TV before they
your TV's trash. Yep.
And then it will stick for you. Then you're going to keep looking for affirmation. And like we talk about in the GPU market, by the time you get what you think is affirmation, it's already going to be obsolete. So trust your eyes, trust what we say. I don't ever say stop watching us. And just don't get in the habit of defending your purchases in the comments. You know, it's a losing thing at a certain point. Just enjoy it.
Or I mean, I don't even mind if they defend their purchases. They just don't need to be like, oh, the Samsung's the best. Like all the LGs are trash. You know, like people get real brand loyal. It's just like, you know, and I always tell people if they come onto one of my videos where it like kind of contradicts what I said, I'm like, dude, awesome. You're happy. I'm happy, man. That's all I want. You know.
But they'll go into every, the video could be about Arizona. And they're like, oh, all right, well, check it out, the Q90, and they'll track down the one guy that has a new panel, and they'll be like, oh, that thing's crap, man, take it back. That I can't stand. Like, leave that dude, like the guy that was just on that loves his panel, was it Andy? Andy, you just captured what all of us, that wow factor I had watching Jurassic Park for the first time. Like, keep that, hold it. I don't care what anybody says about the A90J. Turn down the volume, enjoy that panel. and you just accomplish what we all love about home theater. Don't listen to anybody else, because you're going to hear the A90J is too expensive. You know, even comparisons that we do, it's just to bring you information.
Or 4K 120 gaming sucks. The guy's not gaming in 4K or any gaming.
No, I mean, I have it.
HDR, right? Banding.
You can tell me you don't love something, but the fact is, when you're just repeating what you've heard or read from somebody else, that's fine. But if I have it in front of me, I'm still giving you my opinion. But people are telling me, I can see exactly where they copy and pasted their opinion from. And they're just repeating what they read. I'm like, guys, what you're hearing is outdated. These things are changing every single day.
Yep.
So I'm getting passionate right now.
I wanted to mention Injustion's angle on this locked SDR. There's a reason behind it. Thanks for the super chat, Injustion. So the reason LG is locking the peak brightness, if you push it to bright like you would like to, if you push it any further than what the lockout is, you're washing it out because it's adding more white to make it brighter. That's what we talked about. That's one of the limits of OLED. So they're doing it for your own good, right? And I think there was a follow-up with Keep It Classy who wanted to mention something here real quick on that point. Hey, Tech with KG, can you kind of comment on this? Mention the Sony dimming is not the ABL, it's the image retention prevention, as you talked about in your video, but also A80J image retention is noticeable in all content. Go for it, KG.
Yeah, so I released a video today talking about just this topic, and I touched on that there was a lot of issues. Like if you look on the forums, a lot of people were reporting that sometimes they noticed their screen was getting dimmer when they were watching content or when they were playing a game, and it usually happens when you're in a static position or when you have a lot of logos on the screen. And so LG has the logo luminance reduction, and a lot of people thought that this is what was happening with the Sony. And it turns out the Sony doesn't actually have this technology in their TV. And what's happening is the screen is gradually getting lower in brightness and dimming down when it's detecting something that is potentially going to cause image retention. So you could see this on the Sony support website where they list all their anti-burn-in technologies that they have in their TV. And this is something that I wanted to bring to people's attention to why this was happening, because Keep It Classy Tech actually has that video with Fortnite where he's looking into the sky and then he's running around a little bit, and you can see that the screen is getting dimmer. So in my video, I performed some of these similar tests, and I definitely found that you run into it a lot if you are in a very stable position, or maybe if you're playing a strategy game that's going to have a fixed position. A lot of times, maybe you would notice the screen dimming down. I noticed it more in SDR, less in HDR. But yeah, it's something that is definitely present in the Sony OLEDs. And it's not just the A80J that does it, but the A80J definitely has more image retention. Like if you're on a logo for just like maybe 3 seconds and you hit the start button, like you'll see the logo still on the screen for a good 2 to 3 seconds. And yeah, that's something that I noticed a lot with the A80J.
Thank you for that. And remember, all three of my co-hosts have excellent YouTube channel that addresses their angle, and the way each of us like a TVs is very different. So if you subscribe to all of us, you're going to get that specific use case. And if you share their use case, that's why their review is relevant to you, because a lot of people don't realize I am totally into accurate cinema watching. I want to see all the color because I watch in pitch darkness. But if I did that in a bright room, well, not only will I not see all the color because it's so dim, but I'm like, this HDR thing isn't happening for me. So keep that in mind. And I love that Brian goes, you know, the G1 is great, but I'm having a heck of a time installing it on the wall. I never would have known that because I don't do installations. And then you have Brian, who's like, dude, love your TV. He compares it to your ex-girlfriend. I mean, it's awesome what you guys do, right?
But you know what's so funny, real quick, about the ex-girlfriend thing is like with Tech with KG and you guys that do these comparisons, 'cause I've done them too. When you compare different technologies, if we're going to talk about girls, it's like you have a very curvy, beautiful girl here, but she's fat because this one's jacked. But she, you know what I mean? So it's like you compare them, and people say, "Oh, you shouldn't compare them," but when you have them side by side, it gets pretty crazy that way because you're like, "Oh, I do like this one for that," and so yeah, you got to put it into some real world context.
And speaking of comparisons, I want to address this because I love motion. You all know that. Dustin Lay, what TV has the best motion for cinema, and where do I start? The problem is, first, you have to know how to put it on the right settings. If I give you the best TV for cinema, and you don't have the right settings, you're going to call me up and say, what the heck? This is the worst. So first of all, the good news is this. All the TVs, for the most part, have caught up to each other for cinema this year. And I'll be very specific. Sony has always had good cinema motion. LG and Samsung have now caught up. And Hisense is demonstrating they're there. But number one, know your settings, okay? And is it 24p without soap opera you're looking for? When I say motion for cinema, I'm talking minimal soap opera or nothing at all. That's when the Sony, the LG, the Hisense, and the Samsung have stepped up to catch up to where Sony is. And for those of you outside the US, Panasonic, yes, is there as well. But that's for non-soap opera. But if you're saying, oh, wait, I'm okay with soap opera, then almost all the TVs, even Vizio, by the way, almost all the TVs are fine. If you max out the processing, that's that motion interpolation that a lot of people dislike, the soap opera that Tom Cruise does not like.
I did a video on that.
Right? Even Vizio got it right. But so, Dustin, if you don't like soap opera, best motion for cinema, then any of those TVs are fine. You just have to get it on the right setting. And let us know which TV it is you're getting, and I'll tell you the setting if I have it. So that's that. Thank you, Amir Nizam, for the super chat. I use a Samsung Sero to display NFT art. Wow. What's NFT art? Is that something I'm not aware of? Oh, is that the one where you pay a lot of money because it's unique? Changing the orientation on the fly works perfectly for displaying art. Would you consider reviewing a Sero?
I did a video on that. Yeah, is that the one that turns? Is it the LED?
Yeah. Okay, I haven't done it. I don't have any plans for it. Maybe I should. What are you guys' thoughts on the Sero?
I think it's cool, but I couldn't see a use case for myself personally. But like I think for maybe somebody that's really into social media, they want to check their Twitter on a big screen TV or something, they can flip their TV and then look down their Twitter timeline. Like that might be cool for them. You know, if they want to check their Instagram and like see if anybody posted some stuff on Insta, be like, oh yeah.
Is that like touchscreen? I mean, I don't even know. Like, I
don't know if it's a touchscreen.
I don't know if it's a touchsine.
It's a
virtual, though,
it's like your phone. It's long like your phone.
I think it's a touch. Right? If it's a 43-inch TV is $1,500, so it's pretty expensive. It's more expensive than the frame even. You know, like I like the frame. I mean, I don't know why you need to display the NFT. I mean, I get it. I don't know. We're like, it's like this is a broad question because it's like, first of all, are we buying crypto? Then secondly, are we putting it on our Sero or our Samsung frame? Man, I just want some pictures. The reason I got the frame is because I'm doing videos on it and get a couple million views off of it. But then secondly is because I want to put pictures of my kids on it, rotate some fun pictures. So that's a lot of questions.
Well, I wonder with the rotating one, if it's like the gym equipment that has those LED screens that turn on their side, so maybe it has that functionality with orientation. I mean,
that's a good point.
It's got a stand, so I mean, you got to put that on the stand. It's just kind of it's interesting. They got also the Serif, and they have the Terrace. They got all these different TVs. I like one thing that I saw on the Samsung frame that I liked is that you can get it with the bezels, that change colors, and they also have now this like shelf where it has like a wall. So you can get it's kind of cool if you have an apartment or something, you have that TV. A lot of people get it for the decoration. Now you can get like an entire wall that mounts that on it, and then it has some shelving next to it. So it's kind of a cool looking. It's expensive, but it's kind of cool looking.
With the power of the demo, Brandon, I have friends that, as we all have people outside of YouTube that ask, we'll send them like 10 videos, and they're like, "My wife bought the frame, bro."
Yeah,
and I'm like, really? But they'll put the frame. The frame maxes out at 65, doesn't it?
No, they got 75. 75.
So they're buying like the 65 frame for these giant rooms, and they're like, "Thanks for all the videos, bro. Where's your one on the frame?" I'm like, "I don't have one."
Go to Brandon. He's
there's a lot of people out there, a lot of people that are outside the technical AV world that watch my frame videos. So I'm like, I'm gonna get that. And that's why I bought the new one this year. I
think we're losing exactly the point why people buy a TV. They just assume the picture quality is good enough. Yeah. But what about the other stuff? What about the usability? What about the frame? How good does it look? Oh, look, it's got the rear is metal. It's got this tripod stand made out of wood, right? The G1 gallery. That might end up making the decision because the wife is like, it looks good enough for me. Get the one with the wood stand. We're done.
So FOMO, I remember when the Z9G came out. Have you guys ever seen the Z9G in person?
I have not.
All right. The feet on it look like a transformer. It's it's huge. It's like 3 inches thick. And when Robert and I talked about it not selling well, it was because it was too thick. And its bezel was too thick. And people were paying more money just for that minimalist look. And you think about the thickness that you need for that kind of zone count, it cannot be thin, which is why the backlight master drive is left out. They want these TV. Look, the 8K lineup was so thick. That's why mini LED is here. It's not here because of black level or peak brightness. It's here aesthetically. And that is why the average person buys. How's it look? It's not why we buy. I don't care if the thing is 6 inches thick. It doesn't matter to me. But for a lot of people, it matters more than the picture quality.
Yep. No, agreed. And real quick super chat. Thank you, Andy, for this follow-up. He is using Wi-Fi. He has a very fast Wi-Fi 6 router. I don't know if Sony is Wi-Fi 6 capable. I don't know.
Yeah,
honestly,
technology. Oh, my bad.
It should. It should be.
I don't
right?
think it is.
I'm hoping it is. Watch the Escape Room 4K IMAX. IMAX enhanced. What I heard is not. It's not bad. It's pretty good. And the only issue he had is the weird eARC dropout. It's not weird. It's happening, and it's because it's the Atmos thing. If you don't have Atmos, not a problem. Oh wait, I forgot to tell you, Bravia Core does not support Atmos, so that's even more weird. If you're watching a Bravia Core, it's only DTS 5.1. What is up with the dropout on that? So again, give the Sony for its video, not for any amazing audio coming out of that TV, please. And this is real quick. I think this is important because the theme today is Brandon's son winning the championship football. Do you think it will dim NFL games? And here's my response. If sports is that important to you, get a QLED, honestly, because sports looks phenomenal on QLED. The motion is great. You just max out motion interpolation, and because it's so bright, you put on BFI, it's still pretty bright. But the other TVs where you're concerned about dimming, it's because we're movie watching. Everything has a use case. So I don't know if it will dim in NFL games. We'll have to check it out when the big game comes. But what are your thoughts on dimming watching NFL? Have you guys any dimming watching football?
So I think that you won't run into too much dimming because the scene is constantly changing in the NFL game. You're always seeing behind the scene, behind the quarterback views, instant replays. They're always showing close-ups on the players. So I think the scene's going to change enough so that the brightness won't dim too much in that sense.
Well, especially since it's green versus the hockey, which
that
is
too,
white.
yeah,
right, green, not white.
That's a great point. Also, tech that they, I know some people at ESPN, the way they're changing the views without the audience there, ESPN and those guys really got creative with their camera angles. So you're going to see it change even more.
Yeah, agreed. All right, and thank you, Steve, for the super chat. As I said last stream, I enjoy the energy and info y'all bring to the group. First time seeing you, Brian, and you got me hitting the subscribe button. Bam!
Welcome to the family. Thank you so much.
Yes. And I tell Brian all the time, you guys don't know. If I put out a video, I'm like, oh, this is going to cause stress or anxiety or angst. I call it Brian. I just put out this video. You might get some people knocking you up saying, hey, dude, I just bought this TV and FOMO said this. What the hell, right?
Well, and typically I'm more positive than I am tonight. It's just that seeing the way this year has gone with technology and seeing the lack of and I want to talk about this really quickly. Seeing how some TVs are delayed, other ones are selling out. There's no more bargaining posture for consumers, and seeing what happens in the comments is making me frustrated. So I do feel like I have to dunk on people while we're here together. Normally I'm a little more positive than this, but it's just getting to be when you push other people's purchases down, that's not something I'm about. So I'm there to, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for joining the family.
Agreed. And Mark has a great comment. Hi guys, maybe I'm crazy, but the local Best Buy just got a 75-inch Q&A. I swear it looks a lot better than the 65-inch. Is there a big difference in the dimming zones? So I'm going to address two things. Answer is yes, they got more dimming zones, a lot more going up in size. Unlike other TV companies, which shall remain unnamed, sometimes you go up in size and there's not more dimming zones, but Samsung does a great job of scaling the number of dimming zones up. More importantly, not just Samsung, any TV that's larger, it is going to be brighter perceptually to your eyes. And I know Samsung store demo mode is going to be really bright and punchy. I mean, they're going to crush out the blacks, put out the super contrast enhanced mode, and you'll be like, damn, is this an OLED? And so, yeah, it does look better at the larger size. I think it's a phenomenal TV, period, at 75-inch. You guys have any experience in Best Buy seeing these larger TVs looking great? Better than a 65-inch?
Yeah.
In my own home.
There you go.
I mean, they
Brian
are.
was saying-
They are.
Yeah.
Like Brian was saying that the one thing is though too, when I notice you can kind of pick out the dirty screen on this larger screens too, because it's a big, you get a bigger like full screen white area, and then you're like, it's tough. It's tough, but I mean, of course, it's bigger. The size difference is bigger than the brightness difference in some TVs because 10 inches bigger, you're getting all that extra screen to look at.
Well, I'd say the 900H again at 85 is extremely impressive, more impressive than it is at the smaller sizes. So, and for Mark and for all of us, the challenge with even you see with ratings.com, they'll say they assume that it's performing the same.
Yeah.
And that's something that all of us and even professional reviewers do not take readings on displays that are larger than 55 and 65 because they're too expensive for anybody. So that's, we had this with the Z9D. We talked about the pixel response being too slow. And then they were saying that, well, the 75 maybe doesn't have it. Well, do you have 10,000 to test it? And that's what you're going to see for a lot of people. I think expect them to be brighter. However, expect to see grid patterns, expect to see a dirty screen effect because it is, they're 6 feet wide.
And I'd like to address that size difference, performance difference on RTings. Most of the time, RTings is right about that. But then with Samsung, for example, this year Q185A, the 85-inch is actually a VA panel, but everything below it in size is that IPS ADS panel. Last year, the Q80T, the smallest size, was an IPS panel at 60 hertz, right? It was 60 hertz panel. It was not a 120 hertz panel, but it was very small. But you can't just assume that. Most of the time it's right, but for your TV and for your size, hunt down people that either have it or look into it or go on Samsung's spec sheet. It's not always consistent across the size spectrum. So yeah.
Well, look up Z9G reviews and tell me how many you find.
Yeah.
Or even the Q900A at that size. And that's going to be the problem for all of us going forward. 8K reviews on a 55-inch TV don't really, it's going to be hard.
Hey, CyberHD, thanks for the super chat. Losing image retention for in-game hub like RTS games or simulation games, would A90J or JZ2000 1500 or wait for 2022 for TVs with a heat sink? Okay, so image retention, game hub like RTS. Okay, so he's afraid of image retention if there is a persistent, like a HUD, I guess, or game hub or RTS game simulation.
I think you meant HUD, yeah.
Perfect time for me to take a restroom break because this is all you guys.
Go forth, buddy. Go forth. What are your thoughts on waiting for next year's OLED with heat sinks addressing issues unique to image retention and gaming on an OLED? Should they wait, assuming they could wait, or get it now and they're just worrying about nothing? What are your thoughts?
Go ahead, Tuck.
So I think using your TV as a gaming monitor in a sense for like RTS games on like an OLED is kind of dicey in the first place, but for the A90J, it seems like it shouldn't be too much of an issue. The heatsink seems to work really well with image retention. I actually haven't had a chance to see image retention on the A90J, but I've seen it a ton on the A80J. So I think the heatsink is doing its job and it's doing it well.
Excellent point.
So yeah, those TVs that he's listing here would probably be fine. I don't think you need to wait for a different TV.
I completely agree, and I have a terrible feeling the 2022 models are going to be worse due to everything that's happening out there as far as technology, and I don't feel they're going to be much. You might see LG show up with some heat sinks. I personally think that LG has it now, but had made some deal with Sony to kind of hold it back. Just weird how the sizing was. They had a 77-inch G1, but not an 83-inch G1. They could easily do a G1, so I have a feeling they made a deal. You can release the 83. We'll hold back our 83. I would think that waiting for that is going to be tough. I would purchase something now.
Yeah.
And tomorrow's promised to no one. I mean, next year especially.
Yeah. I definitely think that the heatsink technology is the future though for OLED for sure. It works phenomenally. Like I can see a difference when it's
Panasonic's been doing it forever, but as you said, the Panasonic not having the Evo panel is helping it. with better picture quality. So we're all catching them experimenting. It's like gaming where we're the beta testers. The game's done and we're, a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Agree. All right. And that's why you guys are here, because I'm like, wow, this is a very special question, right?
Yeah, the RTSs are hard, as Tech said, though. I mean, I'm not afraid of burn-in, honestly, at all. I game hard as hell. Right. I do switch up my content. But when you're running, leave windows open for hours and hours and hours, or run RTSs where things are just stagnant, I mean, it might not be the best choice regardless. And I think you'd have a better experience with a QLED or an LED.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, Shuvo, thank you for the super chat. LG replaced a panel on the C10 with pink tint without any hassle. So what is the best cinema setting for the C10? Real cinema on or off? So for me, I turn off all of the AI type processing stuff myself personally, because that doesn't screw up the saturation. Sometimes it's either oversaturated or, it gets brighter, like let's say dynamic tone mapping, right? But it's clipping. So because I watch in the dark, I don't need that extra brightness. In a bright room, that extra brightness does add to, hey, there's a guest. This does add to the HDR experience, but in a darker room, you get that color, you get to see it. So I normally put it on the just the regular cinema mode, but I don't have any of that real cinema stuff on. What are your C10 movie settings that you found to give you the best cinema experience?
So hard because it's not like the Pacific Rim is not going to look like Gone with the Wind. So it all is what, I don't want to see, like, I'm somebody who likes my stuff punchier. I don't mind some motion settings. I do like things to look fake when it's fake content. I want Gemini Man to jump off the screen. I don't want it to look like Jaws. So I always kind of stay away from settings as far as, real cinema. AI, it's supposed to learn as it goes. That's supposed to be its thought. So I tend to leave it off, though. All
right. What are your anyone else have special settings that you use for your LG to make sure that you get the most accurate cinema possible?
I don't do a whole lot of worrying about the accuracy. I like to just, I don't like use, I don't use vivid mode, but custom or whatever, like Cinema Home for Dolby Vision. But I typically just try to watch, I'll try to find whatever streaming app that I can to get it in its best mode. Like if it doesn't have Dolby Vision on this app, I'll go over and watch it on Vudu versus, I just always hunt for the best combination of picture quality and sound quality, because I want to get Atmos and Dolby Vision when I'm watching a movie, because when we're watching it. But no, I don't really mess around with too many settings. Just try to, I like using the auto contrast, but the auto contrast to make it look at how I feel it. Sometimes it creates more noise, and then I got to dick around with trying to get the noise reduction set so that you can kind of not get too much graininess, but you're still getting a little bit more saturation and having some fun with it. So,
all right, agreed. Good point.
FOMO, back to the motion though, real quick, as we talked before.
Yeah, go for it.
Motion, depending on who's doing the review. You might have somebody pan motion because they love motion interpolation.
Yeah, love the soap opera, and you don't. There you go.
Just pay attention to who you're listening to. But somebody that really which is nothing wrong with that. Some people love that look. If you're going by us liking it because it doesn't get too crazy, just remember who you're listening to. Listen to everybody, but just remember what tastes are. If someone says this has terrible motion, but they love motion interpolation, that's important.
Yep. Sean, thank you for the super chat. I just got a C1 77-inch and Visual Elevate. I'm hearing a lot of good things about the Elevate. Is the C1 capable of VPN? Thanks. VPN. Now, I don't have the C1, but I haven't heard of VPN as a feature on the C1. What do you think he's trying to say? Hey, Sean, can you let us know exactly what you mean by VPN? Any thoughts on
VPN and so I can get Netflix off a different area or something?
What it is? That would be on
I know.
Outside
PC or something, or a device.
Can I get it off an outlawed Fire Stick? Just so everybody.
One of those Android boxes.
Right? That Cody was really good.
I used to do that. I used to go to people's houses and jailbreak their Amazon sticks every day. But I was like, it's not on me if it gets messed up. It's on you guys.
So the IPS is going to come down on you and blacklist you off the IPS, which is going to happen. Be careful.
I got a couple people, it was funny, a couple ladies that were loving that, man. They were scamming every movie off. I love that stuff, man. It doesn't work very efficiently though. It always like fails. Thanks for
eventually
confirming this, Andy, real quick. Yeah, so it's Wi-Fi 5 on the Sony. That's what I thought.
I was looking that up too. And you know, while we're on this, if you don't mind,
go for it.
Honestly, I think the Bravia Core app kind of sucks. Like,
That's
maybe it's a little higher bit rate, but it doesn't. Like, my main problem is I got most of the channels that get a lot of the Sony movies anyway. So I have like HBO Max, or I'm on like, whatever, Netflix. But then on top of that, you got you can't fast forward and see where you are in the movie, so you're fast forwarding blind, and it's like I have no idea where I am right now, So I don't know. It wasn't anything special.
Well, Brandon, while you're on it, this question is actually for you. Hey guys, Brandon mentioned issues with Sony Z9J Netflix, meaning that he gets kicked off of Netflix while watching it. Is Sony known for responsive update fixes compared to other brands?
Yeah, I wouldn't know. All I know is I haven't I pulled off Netflix. Because we use Apple TV, so I don't really care too much about it. But every time we go back and accidentally, it's like, oh, boom, right? You get booted right out. So we tried deleting it, reinstalling it, update firmware. Nothing helped. I didn't look into the like owners chat to see if like someone had fixed that. I asked, but I hadn't checked back. I don't know, Brian. It sounds like you have an opinion about it.
I mean, I'm still waiting for them to do some VRR. So
it sounds like that's a hardware issue, right? Or is not going to happen?
I think they're like, sorry. I mean, I see the way they update the PlayStation. I'm waiting for my storage, PlayStation 5 storage, to get bigger. I don't know about you guys, but
quick FYI for everyone though, apps are independently also managed by Netflix themselves. This could also be Netflix's fault on the Android/Google TV thing. What are your thoughts, KG?
Okay, so yeah, I have some thoughts. Definitely,
Please.
I don't know if it's a Netflix issue because I've had a lot of apps crash on the Sony, and I've actually ran into issues where the Wi-Fi drops out suddenly too, and I don't know what's up with that. So like when I'm recommending a Sony TV to people, I definitely say like, just get a external streaming device and don't worry about the Wi-Fi part of it. Like, because pretend like the Wi-Fi doesn't work. Honestly, that's the way you gotta treat it. It's almost like when you approach Vizios, like you don't recommend them to use SmartCast. You just don't use SmartCast. And so that's kind of how I got to approach Sony right now, because there's so much connectivity issues and app crashing and so much stuff. Yeah.
But that I have two.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I have two of those as well. That two of those things like you're speaking of. One is the app crashing, and like when you turn the TV on immediately, it says Wi-Fi not connected. It's like, just like you shouldn't have a message saying Wi-Fi not connected. Give it 3 seconds to connect to the internet before you tell us it's not connected.
You're troubleshooting.
And secondly, the other thing is the audio, that it doesn't sync with your soundbar. So the audio, you turn the audio up, it'll say 10, but on your receiver it says 20, and then you go down to 0 on your Sony TV says 0, but the receiver still has volume. Those should sync up. Like that's just another issue. No, all the other TVs sync up, like the Sony, Samsung, and LG. It just has a plus and a minus, so you don't have those numbers. That then, I mean, that's just someone's not keeping track of some of the software stuff on Sony's end, and that's probably because you said they're not vertically integrated, so they got all these other contractors worrying about different parts.
Well,
I say do what they did with Panasonic. Just offer me one with no apps. Just give me a freaking monitor, lower it $30 so I can buy a Fire Stick and call it a day, because they're trying to do CPU. They're trying to be PCs, and none of them are good at it. Honestly, none of them are good at it. So I just wish you just give me picture quality. But to tell somebody that just bought a brand new TV they can't use their smart features, we don't care. I mean, I have 9 devices connected to it that can get me Netflix. Apple doesn't do YouTube HDR with their new stuff. I mean, with HDMI 2.1. So they're all missing something. But to tell someone who's just buying it, look, man, just turn off the smart features. So I don't know. It's a debacle.
To that point, though, because we're all talking about external devices, give me your one favorite. Mine, I really like the Google TV Chromecast because it's not the most expensive. My second choice would be the Apple TV. It is a little expensive, but those are the two I would recommend. What are you guys?
I like the Apple TV just because it's like I like the 4K Dolby Vision home screen. Like whenever I turn my Sony on and I click you got to press, because this was Sony, so it doesn't just automatically turn on. I got to press like 6 buttons to get it to pop up. But the good thing is the Sony remote controls Apple TV and turns it on where the LG doesn't like wake it up. So that's like a pain in the butt. I love the Apple TV 4K. I love that Dolby Vision screen. It's so bright. And it's been working out for me. And I know people say that the NVIDIA Shield's pretty sick. I almost bought one. I'm probably gonna buy one of those just for comparison.
All right. And KG, what's your favorite external device?
Yeah, so a little disclaimer. My favorite external device is the Apple TV, mainly because I'm in the Apple ecosystem. So like that really does portray to me. So like I really like the connectivity that you have with the Apple devices, and I do like how everything is presented on one screen when you go to the TV view, and you can see all the stuff that you need to catch up on. So that's pretty cool. I've heard the NVIDIA Shield is really good. Keep It Classy Tech keeps telling me that this is like way better than Apple TV. So I got many people have told me as well. Yeah, I gotta check it out.
Let's talk about Apple real quick. And this is not a plug for Apple, but I'm hearing that the Apple lossless music is going to kill the MQA on Tidal because it is that much better. People are listening differences. They're saying that just the quality, the lossless quality is actually audible. Whereas on the MQA Tidal, it's like, am I hearing anything that's getting better? It sounds the same. On the Apple, you hear more. Now, this is the early reviews, but if this continues, I think Tidal's going down. And not like I'm a fan of either. I'm saying, wow, Apple, good job with that. So now, quick thank you to Rachel Dempster. Okay to update Netflix app. I'm worried about messing up my calibration. And remember, Brian, Jeep hair, don't care.
No doors, no doors, girl.
No worries about the Netflix app because there's nothing you can do about it. They have their own Dolby Vision thing anyway. It's not going to mess up your TV's calibration, but Netflix may always adjust its approach to how your TV looks. Nothing you can do about it. Just go ahead and update it.
Yeah, your calibration's fine.
Yeah. And thank you, Maxime, for the super chat. You don't have Philips in the USA, but maybe you can still answer me. I read that OLED Deep Black is a bit wasted when used with ambient light. Is it true? So not just ambient, it's just all about bias lighting. The reason people use bias lighting is for two reasons. One is if you have an LCD TV and it's a bit lifted, it'll make the blacks look deeper, but on OLED, it does reduce eye fatigue. So it's not wasted on OLED. You'll still see the deep blacks, but it's actually reducing eye fatigue if you're watching HDR and it feels too bright. So no, not at all. You still enjoy the amazing native contrast ratios as well. So I don't think it's an issue. I have it on mine. I think the OLED looks great with my bias lighting. What are your thoughts on bias lighting if you guys use it?
Well, I talking about the Ambilight. I like the generic ones, like I'm enjoying it. I don't have a Philips. Obviously, I'd like to get that. I'd try it out, but there is something to having just kind of like a steady glow behind the TV. It kind of makes it separate from the background a little cool. It's kind of cool. I don't think I need one that reacts to the content I'm watching, probably not, but it wouldn't hurt. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. They got those like $20 ones. $12, you can get some of them. I do at the end of my videos. I show people how to get them, put them in the description just so they can check them out. $12, not bad.
Oh, that's a good point. How about any of you use bias lighting or swear by bias lighting?
I can see Tex is on from behind him.
Yeah,
Which one do you have, or is this a light, or do you have?
There's a lot of bias lighting over there.
It's just a LifeX light strip where you can change the colors on the phone and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Is that on the back of your stand, or is it on the back of the TV?
It's on the back of the TV.
The funny thing is sometimes when I do static colors on one of mine, it like flickers in like 30p, so like it would be flickering right now because they're like only like 15 hertz or something. It's crazy. So I have to put them on like the steady changing one so that they don't flicker. It's weird, but that just comes into play when we're actually making videos. But like, it looks cool. Looks cool behind you.
I think bias lighting is nice. I think it's great aesthetically. I personally don't think it really helps at all if you have severe blooming. I don't think it changes an IPS panel to a VA panel. People have said, just buy this and buy bias lighting. It is not a fix for that.
Oh, yeah. I don't think so.
You'll see blooming in the corners. I know because I've tried it, like 9 of them back there. I mean, they're beautiful aesthetically. I think it's that one that matches what's on screen is nice, but they're, if I have to put a camera in front of my TV, that's not what I want either. But I think they're nice as an accent, but they don't really change. They can make contrast ratio appear a little bit higher, but if you have severe blooming, you have severe blooming.
This goes back to the VPN comment. So it turns out that VPN's a codec, I guess like AV1 or HVEC. Oh. I'm not familiar with or have personally needed VPN personally, so I don't know if it's capable of VPN or not. Are you guys have any opinions on the VPN codec?
Never heard of it.
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
For VLC, but I haven't heard of
Yeah.
VPN.
Hey, Christopher Taylor, thank you for the super chat. Just showing support. Thanks. Stay awesome, fellas. Also, I have Vizio Elevate. Pretty good so far. Yeah, I'm hearing good things about that. Spillage Village, thank you for the super chat. Seems like JZ2000 has problems with game mode at 4K 120. Well, welcome to the MediaTek world. Only displaying 1080 lines, VRR only at 60 hertz. Apparently, firmware update later. Come on, gaming is hard, and so this only goes to how good LG is at doing. But they're vertically integrated. They are developing their own chip, just like Samsung does, and so it's not a surprise. Christopher Taylor, anywhere that sell remotes, I like the C1's remote. So yeah, you guys know of any places to buy a remote?
You can pretty much get them online anyway.
Another C1, or you want to put a C1 remote on another TV?
Yeah, maybe a C1 another TV, because I think the new C1 remote is a bit better than C10. It's kind of bulky. A lot of people are saying they like it, so that could be a possibility.
Normally, you can go on like any of the like major brands. You can go on and find like their customer service areas, and they have like parts. You can buy parts. I know that the A90J remote for like Sony was available online. I linked it in my videos. You can buy it for like $80. I'm sure the C1, because I was looking up, I had the C1 and the G1. I was trying to figure out which remote was which, so I had to look it all up. So I found them somewhere. They're selling them, but I don't remember now.
Makes sense. And Cyborg has a comment real quick. Ambilight, four-side reactive lighting. I don't use it myself, but I hear people really like that reaction to the ambilighting. And here's a comment. What's up, Whisper Status? This is for you. After party on your channel? Got a question coming. Need some time on the couch. Yes.
Yeah, I'll follow this up with a live stream after.
I know you got one too many drinks, hey?
Nah, I'm in the heavyweight division. I can drink all day.
Hey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you guys to take over a few minutes. I don't have to take a quick restroom break. I was telling Brandon, you're not going to go for a long time, but it hit me. Wait, I would have to go to the restroom. So I'll be back. You guys go for it.
Cool, man. Well, that's fine. I don't know how many.
He really went to the bathroom. He's like, I
gotta go now, man. What was that one you were just talking about? Is this the Whisper Stat? Oh, that we're right here on the Cabes comment. The only one next is Ephraim Grease, the name that I always screw up. I love you all. Thanks for your tech therapy. That must be for you, Brian. The tech. Well, maybe saying all of us to tech therapy.
I think we're all doing it.
Here, I wanted to. Here's a good question. Oh, go ahead, man. You can go if you want. There's a question from Bill Hubbard. I want to know what people think about the hardware unboxed dilemma with LG. I don't know. Did you guys see the video where he made about like LG trying to like tell him what to say about his gaming monitors? Where like he had a 27-inch gaming monitor that came out, and he was like all about talking. He was like, I like the monitor. It was an awesome monitor, but then they like told me I had to put they needed to put an embargo on it, but he never agreed to it. So he said, fine, whatever. And then he did like the 32-inch. And then they came out by saying basically, okay, now you're good, but you can't compare it to any previous LG monitors. We only want you to compare it to other IPS monitors that are out in the field besides our own. And it's like weird. I think it was this weird video. FOMO shared it with me. He had the same drama with, I think like RTX or somebody about,
you get that with NVIDIA.
NVIDIA there. So similar thing. I mean, what I have to say about it to Bill and whoever else wants to listen to, if someone's going to like contract or get free product to do a review, I mean, sometimes you do have some limitations, but it did seem like weird that they were coming back at him and saying like, only do this or only do that. I mean, in the end, it's his choice to do whatever he wants. He doesn't have to get paid from them to do the review or whatever he was getting for compensation. So I don't know. I don't think it's weird that like they want to dictate some aspects of like what they want to talk about, because in the end, they're just trying to get their marketing departments are like, we want to focus on this part of it. Will you do a video focusing on that? And if that's what you want to do for money, do it. But if not, it sounds like he ended up just doing his own videos, and he recommended both of the monitors. So it was just kind of like much ado about nothing to me, to be honest. So just weird. I don't know what you guys think about that.
But in that space, in the PC space and tech, this more than anybody is, one wrong move with a review on a benchmark can sink an entire product. And you see that with GPUs, CPUs, and they're probably just trying to. And I think a lot of times they're trying to control something now before they can update it. Is what I mean. I feel now things need to be updated now, so that could be the issue. You hate to see that. I'm sure if we were much larger and we had Samsung send us TVs, we might encounter the same thing.
Yeah, we were just talking, FOMO, about that tech hardware thing that you had sent me about the guy getting a hard time from LG. Remember? About like that monitor thing. Someone had asked a question about like, what do you guys think about the fact that they're kind of like trying to stick in with like like doing a review a certain way, and they wouldn't let him. Yeah, so I just answered a quick question about that. That's all pretty much we had gotten to, and I talked. Yeah, so
that's a great point, and honestly, we don't know unless you or the reviewer discloses, hey, this is the issue. It's hard to find if you have true transparency or not. And as he said, you're supposed to disclose if it's an advertising. And as you know, if I have an advertiser, I always say, hey, this is sponsored by such and such, but you know who the sponsor is. It's never the TV that I'm reviewing. And if it is, I would definitely say, hey, that's the sponsor, whatnot. But otherwise, my sponsors are, you guys see a quick 55-second clip, that's my sponsor. Or if it's a dedicated video, hey, this entire video is that sponsor. But that's not always the case with everyone. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, but we don't know what happens behind the scene. Honestly, I wouldn't have known had they not shared that.
That was an interesting video. I liked it just to like kind of understand some of that stuff. But yeah, anyways.
Real quick though, FOMO, with sponsors though, is when you did the Sony 900H thing that you got killed over, and I did it as well, that needs to be called out. So I know that I heard a lot from Sony reps that now think I hated Sony because I talked about that. And even for me getting displays lent to me by Value Electronics, people think that I'm sponsored by them as well. I'm free to say whatever I like about those panels. And believe me, they don't need me to sell them. So they have 50 Q90Js at 83 inches that are sold out right now. So I don't think I affect something that's not going to happen. But I think if I was to be sponsored by somebody larger, I think it's a double-edged sword. And I think you have to almost turn it away if you're being sponsored by Samsung or one of those. So it's slippery.
And it ends up being more of a promotional video. But once you do a promotional video, it calls into question your entire history of videos.
I go through that with Value Electronics, but honestly, I'm against buying TVs and returning them. I could easily buy 5 or 6 of them and send them back. But to me, to be down there and have a relationship with them, to be able to show you what I can show you is TVs that are $30,000. Yes, I'm going to plug their store, and yes, it's a friendship, and you have a relationship with them as well. But I mean, to think that you want people to be honest, but that are going to buy TVs, and it's hard for the smaller channels to do that. And then as we get to the much larger channels, they have to really remain neutral because they have relationships, even if they're not sponsored or they're sponsored. They have the cherry-picked panels, so they can't go off. So really, you have to find that spot where you trust a little bit. So it's tough.
Agreed. Well, here's a breather. Over or under? Thank you, EHJ, for the super chat. Over or under on this? That Sony has 4 HDMI 2.1 ports in 2022. Also, Brian, did you ever find a clean 77-inch LG OLED yet? Love my Sony 65-inch Z9F. I hope the Z9J is great. I'm going to hit the over and under. Definitely under. I don't see it. Not because Sony has anything to do with it. I don't see MediaTek or anyone else introducing 4 ports, so it's not going to happen. And Sony's not going to do it on their own. All right. Where are you guys? Over and under? KG?
Well, I mean, I'd say like over under 3 because then you could pick 2 or 4. You know what I mean? Like, I'm into betting, so you got to give me a better over under. It's got to be like I would say like give me the over under of 2.5. There.
Well, how about parlay?
Then it's like 3 or 2. You know what I mean?
Parlay Sony and Samsung. Sony and Samsung together. Will they have more? Will they have 4 between the two of them?
Oh, there you go. That's a fun one. Yeah. Sony over Samsung 2 or more, and Sony over 3 or over 2. I don't know. Maybe I think they got to. If Samsung was working on 4 for some of their European models, then maybe they'll do 4. I mean, I can't imagine these guys going much longer with this. Like seriously, like this is a 3rd year now. So it's like they got to, this will be the 3rd year, right? Next year will be 3 years. So Samsung did none on the 90R, then 1 and then 1. So they got to give. I mean, I would say hopefully 2 or 4 would be good. But I don't want, if you want the second one, I don't really want it to be the eARC one. I'd rather have 3 then, you know, because the eARC wasted if you have a, you know, just a sound bar. A lot of people ask, they have both systems and they have a sound bar, and they're basically then one's, you know, 4K 60, which not a big deal to me, but seems like it's a problem.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's not.
They're not going to do it because they've always done this. On the other Sonys, they always had HDMI 2.0A versus B. They've always had 2 premium in the middle from the 900E. Those panels always had 2 fast ones in the middle. The other 2 did 4K 30 FPS. There is a cost to having them. There is shortages, as we've talked about FOMO, but there is an inherent cost to having more HDMIs. And I don't think they care. Just like I think Samsung doesn't care about you having Dolby Vision. I don't think they feel it's necessary. They're happy you have the PS5, and that's all they care about. And really, again, we are so in the minority, they don't care. So I'm going to say no.
Okay, KG?
Yeah, so I would imagine that they add it eventually. Like, so next year should be the time where they should have all 4, right? I think they always start like this. With HDMI 2.0, it was the same thing. You had it on 1 port. And then the next year you had it on 1 port again. And then the next year you had it on 2 ports. And then finally you had it on all 4. So I think that, you know, they're eventually going to have to get to it. I wonder if a lot of it has to do with the HDMI 2.1 specifications finally getting finalized. And, you know, that's something that I've heard talked about a few times. So I wonder if that has anything to play with it.
And maybe they're the only one that didn't get the memo, because LG got an early memo about it being finalized. But then again, let's talk about LG. Here is a PSA. Tell everyone not to update the LG C10 firmware. 03.23.06. It breaks eARC again, which is a train wreck to begin with. Been trying to fix this for 2 days. I think you should head over to Tech Therapy so you can start yelling and screaming.
Don't update your TVs. Stop updating your TVs. Like wait for everyone else to make the mistake. Don't update. When you see it come up, turn off auto updates. Don't update them anymore. Let us work it out. I wouldn't update anymore. I mean, that's if they mess with that, that's crushing. I just don't know why. I promise you that update had nothing to do with eARC. And they totally screwed it up.
It's the unintended consequence, because everything is linked, right? It's software, right? You do one thing, cascades and breaks something else, and that. Yeah, don't update. Let other people, like reviewers, update, yell and scream, make a big video about it, and then, oh, look, they fixed it on the next update.
And I'll take it a step further. If you're happy with your picture quality where it is, take it offline. Because these updates are affecting picture quality. And take it offline. I did not have floating backs on my CX out of the box. And then it ruined my TV. So take it off.
Here's a question for you, KG. Hey, why so much artifacting on my Q&A? Did I get a bad panel? And Earthy, if you can tell us exactly the artifacting, gaming, non-gaming, or unless you already know KG, if she or he told you offline. But yeah, if you know what's with the artifacting, what is the use case they're doing that they're getting artifacting on the Q&A?
Yeah, I don't know what artifacting they're talking about. Maybe motion artifacting. If this is the case, then I would definitely mess with the motion settings. It depends on what it is. So is it for game motion plus? Are you talking about like regular motion artifacting? Like, could you elaborate on that a little bit?
I agree. Yeah. Give us a little bit more detail and we'll try to get to your question. I agree, B. I'm not a reviewer or anything like that. And I don't know the true ins and outs of what you guys have to go through. But yeah, when you're trying to do an honest review, this sort of stuff makes it difficult. Because if they kind of cut, and we're going back to the whole sponsorship, and forget sponsorship and payment. If they cut you off from getting TVs that you need to do content, the larger companies like Digital Trends, they don't pay, they don't buy the TVs. And if they don't get those TVs, they can't do it. Now, Artings and many of us, we actually buy the TV, so it doesn't matter to us. But and I know KG, right? You actually have to buy the TVs yourselves because that's the irony. If you're small, they're not going to give you anything like a TV. They'll give you like a cable, right? Oh, I'm going to cut you off from a free cable, right? So many people who do buy it, they're not affected by it. But yeah, so it's something that we didn't ever think about because we actually buy the TVs. But then it kind of brings up a very good point that what if they started sending you money to do reviews? Is it still a review? So.
Yeah, that I'll tell you what my opinion on this stuff. Like as my channel is growing, people are giving, offering to send more and more things, and it's like, when someone tries to send me like an iRobot vacuum, I'm like, dude, what am I gonna do a review about that with my channel? Like nobody wants to see that, But if I would, and I even got, I worked with TCL and got that TV early, and because I even got it from them, I felt somewhat obligated not to put out like a shit fest video, where I was just crapping on it. But I had a hard time, so I just did an install video. So that's like, it's almost like better off that you don't get things, because then you do feel like not even like you're going to be honest or dishonest, but you don't feel that guilt to like, maybe say something different that you wouldn't. I would never like lie about something, but that's not like saying that I wouldn't ever have a sponsored video. I would if we all have to make money doing this as a business, if that's what it is for us. And so you have to make those decisions, but you should never you should never compromise your integrity for money, but there's ways around that. And, companies that do a great job and huge channels that tell the truth and tell it like it is, they do get sponsors all the time. So.
Well, and then like Digital Trends, Caleb, who's awesome. Much love for Caleb. He has said that, even from TCL and Hisense, he does have a panel that's cherry picked by their engineers. They do check them out. They do look them over. They QC them, then send it to him. Where Arting's, that is something they're buying. So like Arting's numbers, for instance, Robert thought that they received very dim C1s. That's their final review on it. They're treating it as a consumer. They're not going to keep buying and following up.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And Earthby has the follow-up about the flickering, if this makes sense. Flickering on HDMI sources, gaming. So gaming, HDMI, and YouTube. So I've my limited time gaming on the Q90A, which is pretty much the whole Dirt 5. I thought it was fine. I didn't see any flickering. How about you?
So when I was testing it for a good month or so, I didn't experience any flickering. I think if you're having any flickering from HDMI sources, the first thing you want to look at is the cable, because that could cause flickering. And then the second thing could be a hardware issue. That's the only two things that I can think of off the top of my head that would cause flickering. VRR is also something that could cause flickering. So if you're using VRR, but I don't know why that would affect YouTube.
You also could, if you have the settings where you have them all jacked up, like, contrast and noise reduction and all that stuff, sometimes the change of like content can it can make it appear like it's flickering. Like Techno Dad was talking about that on the Sony TVs that have that weird like screen that like rotates and makes. So if you have that, if you have all that stuff jacked up, it'll affect it more. I've seen that on like Netflix where it's moving, and then it looks like it's flickering, and I'm like, oh yeah, I had like the noise reduction jacked up. I have that auto contrast, black level, all that stuff is all processing so much. Yeah. It's starting to mess with the screen. So that could be too. It could just be over. You have too much stuff up.
Well, especially with some of the OLEDs, if you get near black, and they all handle near black differently. So I mean, I had crawling blacks on the CX. And even recently played BioShock on PC just for ha-has, and you can just see that the way the OLED was handling a PC game, but that's a whole other issue. But that might be what you're saying as well.
For everyone with a Sony A90J, thank you, Nathan, for the super chat. Is this a known issue? I've had to replace my batteries for my Sony A90J remote 6 times.
Wow.
In 2 months. This is kind of crazy. So this has got to be something wrong. I think this is a replacement. Go ahead.
No, it's cool. I'll talk if you want. I know.
No, go, because I haven't. This is not an issue for me. So go for it.
I saw this. So I think he commented on my channel or something. Like he asked me, and I hadn't got a chance to respond. But yeah, I just literally I got that comment, and then like last night it said low battery for the first time. I'm like, did he screw up my TV? No. So
on the remote.
Yeah. So I've only had my TV for like a month, right? I mean, it's probably like maybe it's 5-6 weeks now, probably more actually. Yeah, it's almost been 2 months. And my first 2 batteries are out the window. So that, I don't know. It could be that. Yeah. Wow. But you know what? I've had Samsung TVs. Like I love that Samsung has that new solar remote with like USB. That is so dope because I can set that right next to I have my phone chargers right there. Boom. Or it just gets light and if you have it up, it's 50% chance it's going to be charging all the time with your lights on. But the A90J batteries died. So I don't know. I mean, when that happens,
that's the backlit remote, though, right?
Yeah, I mean that could be one thing. Yeah. But like,
Tech just taking out the batteries.
It's weird that it happened so quickly. I've seen it happen in a lot of different kinds of TVs. Normally, it's got to be like a defective remote because they should be lasting. Like Amazon, like an Amazon stick too. I would go through like an Amazon 2 batteries every couple days, and I'm like, dude, I got a new one, and
I've had that. I've had that with Amazon.
Yeah.
So it's probably default.
Like yeah,
or get some rechargeables. Buy one of those, like get a 4-pack, and then you can have it 2 plugged in, and then just keep replacing them back and forth. There you go. Then you can save.
You imagine all the technology we're talking about, and you're like, damn batteries, bro.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. You gotta get these things fixed.
That's my favorite thing about the Samsung frame that I'm talking about. There's a couple of little things that you don't really think about. One is that new remote. You don't have those like corroded batteries to worry about. That's one of them. And then my other thing about the Samsung frame, 500 nit machine all day long on every content, SDR, HDR. It's not good. It's not terrible, but you can watch anything on that TV, edge lit. It's a pretty solid TV. It's super expensive though for just having some
frame. Art. Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Amr, thank you for the super chat. How do you think Samsung will differentiate their seemingly future OLEDs versus LG, Sony, etc.? So they have to be bright. Let's just mention that. If a Samsung puts out a TV that is not bright, what's going to happen is all this about OLEDs not being bright, then they'll say, well, why did you put an OLED? Because their marketing is very good at saying that Samsung's the brightest, punchy colors, all of that. So the problem with QD-OLED is it's not bright. So I'm very curious as well to see how they differentiate, because otherwise the image qualities are all the same. It's so close. When I say all the same, it's like we're talking the last 5%. And if Samsung introduces QD-OLED, it's a lot more expensive because it's first generation technology, but it ends up being within that 5% difference. Samsung, I think, has failed because your QLED were fine. It separated itself. What are you guys' thoughts about what Samsung needs to do about a future OLED model to differentiate themselves?
Okay.
Make it look like a Samsung.
Yeah. So I think that if Samsung does bring us the OLEDs, right, and they don't keep the QLEDs, that would be a big mistake. Like, that's what Samsung is strong at. They're strong at the high brightness, high color, high contrast TVs. And if they go with an OLED, they're just kind of going away from what they've been kind of going against for the last couple of years. And they've said that they don't like OLED. They like their QLED. They like high brightness, high contrast. And so if they go with OLED and they ditch QLED, that would be the biggest mistake I think they could ever make.
Agreed.
So,
I have really nothing to add on it. I'm not really sure what they're up to, but it just seems.
That's right.
I mean, it is what it is. I guess when in Rome, but like, yeah, he said, like, I don't know. I've been seeing Samsung as like the anti-OLED, so not really sure what they're doing. You got more of a good idea than I do, FOMO, I'm sure.
I would say don't stay Samsung. Don't turn into an OLED, because the more they've already tried to be more like everybody else and be more accurate. Stay true to who you are, and stay. I gotta say that my battery is about to die because apparently my kids didn't plug in the. So if you lose me, you'll lose me. But I rather see Samsung stay true to themselves, stay vibrant. If you're gonna do OLEDs, I don't know how you stay that way, but don't lose that saturation. You'll be just like everybody.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree. And Jim has a great comment. The backlight on the remote eats the batteries. Get rechargeable batteries. Or Sony, if you're listening, put solar panels on the back or on the front or somewhere,
sure, man.
Please.
That's a good idea.
What? Okay, thank you for this question. Oh, and just let everyone know, we're probably going to wrap it up over the next 10 minutes or so. So if you have any questions, let it out. Any super chats, we appreciate it.
Says I got 5 minutes.
Base bloater, and I know, and then run off to. Are you doing a after party on your channel at all, Brian?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, so yeah, if you guys want to continue talking, head over to Brian's channel. That's Whisper Status 74. What is your advice for improving the motion quality on the 2019 TCL 50-inch Xbox PS? Kind of blurry, like ghosting in motion. Thanks. Okay, so motion 50-inch. Gaming on a console, would motion interpolation help here, KG? I mean, what are your thoughts? I don't have this TCL model, so I don't want to just guess, but how do you guys solve motion issues on an LCD TV? When gaming?
You
Can't,
can't
right?
for the
It
most
is what it
part.
is, right?
Yeah.
It is unless the firmware updates come back and it's improved. Like I had an issue at first with the Q90T when it came out. There was so much ghosting and inverse ghosting that it was sickening. And I was like, if they don't fix this, this is going to be hard to even recommend to anybody to buy. So luckily they did fix it with a firmware update, and that's the only way it was fixed. So I think out of the box, like if it's messed up, it's up to the manufacturer to fix it with the firmware update, because otherwise, there's not much you can do about it.
Agreed.
I would just say, buy a better TV.
That's the easy way out.
I mean, like, what are you going to do? It's a 50-inch TCL TV, just might not get what you want out of it,
And this up.
We lost Brian, huh?
We lost Brian. Okay,
I was-
so what? Oh,
yeah.
we have a couple more super chats.
Oh, no
These will be
worries.
the-
I'm good.
These will be the last few, and we'll wrap it up. Thank you, EHJ23, for the super chat. You guys are awesome. Keep up the great grind. Yes. Well, for us, it's not really a grind. We just enjoy being here. But at some point, we got to go to the restroom, right?
Yeah, and here I want good opportunity to let people know that we're doing the big live stream next week from Monday. So I'm sure a lot of people here that check out these live streams will be in on it first, for some of it or whatever. But we're gonna have like people talking about like smartwatches, like cameras, camera gear. We're gonna have people talking about like stuff to stream like we're doing, home theater, sound bars. What else do we have? I mean, there's like, did I miss anything there?
Audio,
basically all kinds of stuff. So I'm probably gonna do some sort of TV install on the air as well. So while I'm back there, we'll put my camera over there on a tripod and catch
maybe
me
we'll see
installing.
a TV fall live.
Nah, we ain't gonna see no TV fall.
Knock on wood. But
because
again,
if it's in my house right now, it's gonna be my TV and ain't falling.
Wait. Is it worth?
I'll
a
drop
million
a
views?
customers.
Is it worth a million views? Worth a million views?
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe we'll see if we can get a good live stream going. We're gonna do it on Prime Day. Have a hashtag, and maybe we can get it going viral. Everyone can put it out onto their social media platforms and try to get as many people into the whole show as we can. It'll be lots of fun, and we might do something like, depending on the super chats, we'll figure it out. But do some giveaways for sure, and then also possibly if you guys want to ask a question live on the air with us, we might be able to add you into the stream, so that you can better explain your problem or your needs on buying a TV or your installation questions. So that'll be on my channel all day on Monday, June 21st. Should be awesome. FOMO's going to help me do it. KG's going to jump on when he can. I think I asked you already, right? I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah. I didn't ask Brian, but we'll get him on there too. Hopefully,
maybe it's a long day, guys. We'll start from
Sunday. We're going to try to start it. So and they're asking like when is it going to start? So what FOMO and I talked about, I think FOMO's going to do a video in the morning, right? Somewhere around like 10 a.m.
or earlier, maybe
Pacific,
8 or 9.
Maybe 9, yeah. And then FOMO's going to go on his channel for a couple hours. I'm going to join him in the morning at so this is Pacific time, 9 a.m. Pacific, 10 o'clock, somewhere in there. And then at like noon Pacific, we're going to go ahead and flip over to my channel and do it like all day to like 7 or 8 p.m. Pacific. So, 11 o'clock Eastern. So, and we'll do some of the giveaway stuff throughout the day, but at the end is when I'm probably going to give away probably my Sony A8H, possibly the Hisense H9Gs, things like that. So the TVs, pack them up. I'll ship them to you nationwide in the United States. And so make sure you guys let people know about it. We'll start posting links about it and, trying to put the word out. So we'll make it happen. Sounds like it's gonna be a lot of fun, but sorry, back to your question.
9 days. This is perfect. Hey, thanks, Mena Cordero, for the super chat. Is it worth it to consider the new ATSC 3.0 when you need to decide between C1 versus A80J? Okay, so 2 points. First, do you have ATSC 3.0 in your area? If you don't, well, by the time you get it, there are going to be tuners available that you can get for under $100. So that may make up the difference. Now, if you do and you need it right now, I still say wait until the tuners become available cheap. I mean, there are some now that are a little expensive, but for me, the ATSC 3.0 is nice to have, but it's not a deal breaker. What are your guys' thoughts on the new over-the-air ATSC 3.0? Should he buy a TV based on that?
I think probably KG and I both would say that there's a lot of other things to consider between those TVs besides the tuner, right?
Yeah.
Like if you want to go over some of those things, you did a good video on that.
I appreciate that. So yeah, like I think definitely buy the one that you think is the better TV and compare those two and find out what's going on. But yeah, you make a good point about the ATSC 3.0 being available in your area. You got to make sure that's the case first. If you know you're gonna watch something on that, and maybe that does factor into your decision, but you have to think about how much you're actually gonna watch ATSC 3.0, and that's something that you really know for yourself. But yeah, like between these two TVs, I think the A80J is personally better for TV and movies. But yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, and you got the gaming, and then you got the whole gaming versus movie stuff. Like I did like the C1, like it looked a little bit brighter to me in SDR, but just I think that's just the modes I had it in, you know, like the ISF bright versus like whatever custom for Sony. But I like the upscaling and the just the quality of the Sony. So I would probably pick it on those kind of things versus just worrying about it that tuner, you know.
Yeah, I wanted to add that I did like the A80J for gaming more than the C1 as well. So
okay, yeah, that's good.
Just the image quality in general is just what trumps everything.
Now this is, I think I read this question wrong. Originally, I thought he said, "My pet hates noise. What TV is the best to remove noise?" But I guess his pet hate is noise. So what best TV to remove noise from old films such as Monty Python, blah blah blah. Okay, so here's the funny thing. I thought that the Q900T from Samsung last year, the 8K flagship, did a great job of removing noise, better than my Sony A9J OLED. It was the best at removing noise. It was an 8K TV, so I thought its upscaling from 4K or lower bit to 8K did a great job. That was the best feature of the Q900TS. Now, on these modern TVs, they all have a noise removal feature. I never had to test it to compare it head to head, so I can't really make my recommendation. I didn't find it super effective when I did it with the Sony on some of the movies I had, which was Lawrence of Arabia Remastered, the Columbia Classics. So I don't know. I don't have too much to say about noise removal. I don't use it often. Have you guys played with noise removal?
I have, yeah. So one thing I did notice on the Samsung TVs is definitely has less noise for those kind of content. Like, I was watching a movie on the C1 and I noticed a ton of noise, and I was like, wait, I didn't notice that on the same movie on the Q90T when I just watched it. So for whatever reason, the LG TVs seem to like bring out the noise more. I think it's maybe the dithering with the blacks, but when you're talking about the noise reduction for TVs, the Sony actually does a really good job of this with their new TVs as well. They have a feature where you can have the noise reduction, and it seems to work pretty good. So I think a Sony or a Samsung for sure.
Agreed. And thank you all for your super chats and super stickers. Thank you, Jason Hall, for that. And thank you, Corey Melvin. Quick reminder, head over to Brian's channel for the after show. He's going to continue the live stream. I'm putting the link in right now for you guys. We're going to wrap it up here. Hey, thanks again, Brandon and KG, for coming on. You guys make this show happen. Oh, wait. Hey, Brandon. Hey, Brian. I'm sending everyone over to your channel for your live stream. Are you ready to get started?
Yeah, I am. It's just you have your. Is my mic even on? It's not. Hold on.
Yeah, it's on. We can hear you.
And when your kids take your streaming stuff and they don't plug it all the way in, then they claim to plug it in, and you're like, wait, is that the new thing? And then it's wrong.
What's her name? What's her name?
She's publicly getting.
So I'm not even
raked over the coals.
You got groceries in the background. I love it, man. This is real life, bro. Oh, he doesn't.
Yeah, I'm gonna readjust. Sorry about that, dude. Thanks for having me on tonight.
No, it's all good, guys. So thank you, everyone. It's a wrap. Stop the FOMO. Thank you again, everyone. And I'm going to link everyone's channel so you guys can subscribe. Until next time, stop the FOMO.
Great seeing you guys.